Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto learns about his destroyed heritage that lives a secret existence. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Uzumaki Tsuzuya slammed his old withered fist down on the table. I will not put our only grandchild in such danger. How could you even suggest such a thing, Shizuz? Shizuz gave her husband a hard look. Do you want the Uzumaki clan to die? We are small. But do you remember our heritage? We are the ones skilled with the sword, the fury of water, and the descendants of Beowulf. Do you know what that will mean when he comes here to destroy us? To wipe us out? If Kushina goes to Konoha, then our blood will survive if we don't. That's reason enough to send her. Besides, the third Hokage has already agreed to take her in, and has arranged an ANBU escort. She folded her arms and leaned back. She must be ready at all times. The Uzumaki clan meeting was in a heated debate over their future. To date, Kushina was the only child fit to go anywhere and start over their whole life. For that reason, she was picked to leave for Konoha in a moment's notice when a young but still strong Pain came looking for power to help avenge and protect his friends and family. The Uzumakis, famous for their unbeatable swordsmanship, was ideal for power hunters, for if they learned and became masters of it, they would be practically invincible on the battlefield with sword in hand. It seemed that Pain was moving towards them every passing day, as news and locations of various battles involving him came closer and closer. Tsuzuya sighed. Alright, I give in, but one question, why Konoha? There are plenty of other locations to send Kushina to. Muri, another elder, explained to him. Tsuzuya, Konoha is perfect. 1. Because it is the strongest village there is. 2. Because there are thousands of children in it, and it would be impossible to find, much less tell which one was Kushina. 3. There are many boys in Konoha that will grow up to be strong, suitable husbands and fathers to her children. Does that satisfy you? The clan head nodded reluctantly. I guess. Right then. So is this meeting dismissed? Asked Shizuz. Kushina's door slid open. Kushina, it's Shizuz Bachan. May I come in? Shizuz Bachan. A little red-headed girl flew to her grandma. Then she noticed her elder's sad face. What's wrong, Obachan? She asked in that adorable way of hers. Shizuz shook her head sadly. Come. Let's go into the garden. Outside, they sat down on a bench facing the koi pool underneath the sakura trees. Kushina, my dear, this is hard to say, but Shizuz turned away from her granddaughter. You're leaving for Konoha sometime soon. It might be at any time of day over the next few days, but she hugged Kushina. You're leaving. For good. Once you go, you won't be able to come back. Kushina's eyes widened as she heard what her grandma was saying. Shizuz Bachan, no. I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you and Daddy Kuin and Mommy-chan, and everyone else. Why do I have to go? It's not fair. She pulled away and sobbed into her knees. Why? She looked up hopefully. See, can I at least come and visit? Or you come and visit me? Please? Shizuz shook her head sadly. No, Kushina. No. You won't ever see anyone ever again. She hugged the shocked, sobbing child tighter than ever, all the while rocking back and forth. I'm sorry. My darling, I wish it could be different too. I mean, who's going to help me make rice balls for dinner? Shizuz chuckled at the end, trying to lighten the mood. It didn't help. Kushina clutched her grandmother even harder and cried harder. She didn't want to believe that in a few days' time, she would have to leave everything behind, her friends, her family, everything she knew, and start anew, not knowing anybody or anything. After the child stopped crying, she wiped her tears away with the back of her hand. Shizuz Bachan, why am I leaving? Kushina, that I cannot tell you. But what I can tell you is that if you go, the Uzumaki clan will survive. Is someone coming to do bad things to us, Bachama? Yes. Who? His name is Pain. At the meeting the next day, we know that Nyaza-san, Jomi-san, Rito-san and Karaten-san can fight, and their wives too, but what about us? The elders? I believe we should go into the secret chamber under the main house, since we aren't exactly young anymore, and we don't have the strength we once used to have. Also, if Kushina has children, she won't be able to teach them anything because she never learned anything herself, and we know all the clan kinjutsu. For the survival of the knowledge, I suggest we go and hide when he comes. When we hear that she and her children are both of age, we will send for them and teach them the ways. Muri stood up in his seat. I am not old. Well, yes I am, but I still have as much strength as the younger ones. He pointed an accusing finger at Tsuzuya. I can fight, Shizuz sighed. Muri-san, calm down. Don't let your temper get in the way of logic. You know you don't have a chance against Pain. By the reports we have, he is considered very strong. I have a feeling that the younger ones might not have a chance. Muri, still a child at heart, sat down, leaned back, crossed his arms and huffed. Fine. Now, is Kushina packed? Yes, Tsuzuya-san. She is ready to go at any moment. She and I packed her bags yesterday after I told her. Shizuz replied. God, will I miss her. Tsuzuya buried his face in his palms. We all will. Everybody's faces immediately were downcast, remembering the fond memories they had of the little girl. Daddy Kun. See, can I sleep PW with you and Mommy-chan tonight? Just this one time? The redhead turned her hopeful green eyes from her feet to her blonde father. Nyaza smiled sadly at his daughter, knowing exactly why she asked. Of course, Kushina-chan. Of course you can. That night, Kushina climbed into bed with her parents. It would be the fondest and last memory that she ever had of them, for it was the last full night the 4-year-old girl would ever spend with her mother and father. She was in a dark void, where there was no concept of time, distance, or direction. It was an endless black confusion. The little girl felt very alone. She tried to cry out, but when she opened her mouth, no sound came. She reached out, but grabbed a handful of nothing. She was scared. Suddenly, her whole family appeared right before her eyes. Her mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, all of them were there. She tried to run to them, but they seemed to fade away as they smiled. As suddenly as they came, they vanished. No! Kushina shot up, breathing hard. Making sure her parents were still there, she felt for them. Nyaza-kun still on her left, Izumi-chan still on her right. It was just a dream, just a really bad dream. Izumi opened her eyes partway. Kushina-chan? Are you awake? Go back to sleep. You're a growing girl, you need your rest. The girl did as she was told, but something kept her awake. It was a while before she fell into a fitful sleep. A man and a woman, dressed in black cloaks with high collars, looked out from the top of a cliff, their eyes hidden by straw hats. So that's where they are. He studied the complex of traditional buildings. We will go tomorrow. They will help us, same moment, a few miles away, or they will die. Pain turned and walked away into the trees. Are you coming, Conan? The young woman took one last look and followed her companion. Tsuzai was working at his desk when the doors slammed open and the head guard came in. Tsuzai-sama, 2 figures in black cloaks are at the gates, and they demand a council with you immediately. Oh shit. It's them. Take them to the meeting room. But first, inform every man and every woman and every other able-bodied fighter to arm themselves with their swords and to guard all of the exits of the clan buildings. Take all of the elders and put them in the secret chamber. And tell my dear Kushina to come here as quick as possible. Sadness was evident in his words. Hi, Tsuzai-sama. The guard ran out. I pray to Kami that we can beat them. 5 minutes later in the council meeting room, a young man and a young woman in those sinister black cloaks sat across from the clan head. The woman had light purple-colored hair and a white origami rose in her hair. No emotion could be seen in her eyes. Her partner, on the other hand, had black hair that hung down in front of his face since his head was bent. The sight of 2 entire opposites made the elder seem nervous. Kushina, please make it out alive. The woman spoke first. Uzumaki-san, we request that you and your clan teach us the ways of your swords so that we too may become strong. Tsuzai knew his answer immediately. Why should I let you? You two seem strong enough as it is. This time, the man spoke. Because we are on a mission together, one to bring the world to peace. This training will help us destroy the enemies of the world, and cause more trouble and destruction in the process? I think not. Birdie-kun, where are we? The little girl asked in a very loud whisper. We're in one of the secret paths to your clan's compound, replied the ANBU captain in the falcon mask. 3 other ANBU, a cat, a toad, and a fox were also part of the team. The cat carried Kushina's possessions while the other 2 carried the team's gear. Almost there. As the captain spoke, a ring of light could be seen up ahead. When they were right next to it, they saw it was a large boulder covering some sort of secret entrance to the tunnel. The falcon, remembering what Tsuzai had told him to open the entrance, closed his eyes and began to feel the rock. He finally found the chakra holes in it after a while, and pushed chakra into his fingers. The boulder immediately began to move out of the way to open the exit, and the captain removed his fingers. The little girl was awestruck. Wow, Birdie-kun, how'd you do that? She had seen clan members train and use chakra before, but she had never seen someone move a giant rock by simply poking it. The falcon chuckled. Oh, just a little trick your grandfather taught me. Then, he stepped outside into the sun, feeling refreshed at the feel of the breeze through his silver-white hair. He noticed that the girl hadn't moved an inch from where he had left her, head turned to the ground and long red hair hiding her eyes. Being the kind to care about his teammates, and making such missions second priority, he placed his hand on the little girl's shoulder. I'm sorry. Did I make you feel bad? Tears could be seen running down her face. It's just, I won't see him ever again. Or Mommy-chan, or Daddy-kun. She fell to her knees. I miss them already. Falcon picked up her and whispered in her ear. Remember the times you and your family had together. Remember them and they will always be with you. He swung the girl onto his back. Then, taking a great leap, the group sped off into the trees towards Kushina's future. I told you, our answer is no. We will not teach you the Uzumaki Kenbadu. That is final. Fine then. You must die. Pain summoned a strange creature about the size of the head house. It had the head of a cat, with piercings along the bridge of its nose and the edge of its ears. The body was that of a goat's, and the tail was like a lizard's, which too had piercings all along it. He jumped atop its head and formed a few seals. Are you ready? They were outside in the courtyard. 21 Uzumakis, warriors and students alike, surrounded the two people threatening to destroy their clan. Each one wielded a mighty sword, whether it be huge like one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, or long and thin like the standard katana. The most interesting thing about these swords, however, was the uniqueness to the person using it. Each sword was designed specifically for that person and their elemental type, carved with the clan symbol, the spiral, surrounded by writing and intricate designs. When a master would use their sword, the body and the blade became one. A singed one would cost a fortune. Tsuzai summoned his sword using a scroll in his pocket. This sword, out of all of the displayed ones, was the most unique. It looked like a standard sword you would fit in medieval Europe, but without a hilt. The blade slid freely through the handle unless he put his fingers on the holes in the handle, like a flute, thus a very difficult sword to use and even harder to master. H let the blade hang down and looked at his opponent on his mount, shaking his head. I am not. We all are. Then let us begin. Pain summoned up his own weapon, a curved blade on a chain, and began to swing it above his head. Upon completing the last seal, he uttered, Ikamo ge, kasaitsum. The creature he was on suddenly burst into flames, although they did not harm Pain. Just before it began to attack 4 Uzumakis, some using their swords, some not, used various water jutsus and soaked the cat beast, which immediately disappeared in a cloud of smoke and Pain landed on the ground. He swung the chain blade in a large circle at the fighters. One of them, a student, caught the weapon with his sword and yanked. Pain did not budge and pulled back on the chain on his weapon, swiftly pulling the Uzumaki to his death. The body fell to the ground, leaking blood everywhere. One boy, the best friend of the one that just died, cried out Kagabunshin no Jutsu. Immediately, 6 clones appeared next to him. They all charged at Pain, but he used his eyes, the Rinnegan, to easily pick out the real one. Throwing a kunai at the real one, he jumped to the side to avoid the oncoming clones and threw a handful of shuriken at their backs to destroy them. Meanwhile, even if he did not see her, he shoved the blade of his weapon into the body of a warrior who was attacking from behind. The fray had started. Tsuzai knew enough to not approach Pain or his female partner, who was engaged with some others, directly, as this would surely be a fast death for him, as the Priakatsuki members had demonstrated. He circled the battle as did another, who would jump into the fight when it turned critical, but neither saw each other. Within the first 2 minutes, most of the younger, more eager, less experienced fighters had fallen, even if they had the legendary sword skills. The adults and masters were holding their own, though 2 had already gone. Whether they had made one wrong step or were too slow by a split second, Pain had had enough of this child's play. He jumped extremely high, long enough for a long chain of hand seals. Reiko Butai, Kaminari no Amanohara. He yelled. A large lightning bolt came down on every fighter directly beneath him, killing everyone except the 2 circling the scene. Nobody had enough time to react, not even enough make a single hand seal, it was so quick. The remaining Uzumaki stood there, dumbstruck at what had just happened. How could one so young have so much power? That technique alone would leave me tired. Then Tsuzai remembered something from the meeting earlier in the council room. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX, and cause more trouble and destruction in the process? I think not. Pain lifted his head. The hair previously obscuring his eyes revealed them to be the Rinnegan, the eyes of the very first shinobi from which all ninjutsu originated. Although they were a legend, they're actually real. Those mysterious eyes stared into the deep blue of the clan leaders. Please do not deny me or my partner this training. Do you not want peace in this world? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So that's how. Then it suddenly hit him. Shit. We don't have a chance. Tsuzai, in secret, created an earth bunshin and had the clones slowly approach Pain. The 2 fought longer than expected, both using taijutsu and ninjutsu constantly. Pain did not use the lightning jutsu again, as he knew that the old man would block it, or what he thought was the old man. That other Uzumaki, the one who did not fight, was not seen. They had cast a weak genjutsu around where they were standing to keep themselves concealed. Finally, after a while of fighting, Pain managed to chop off the man's head, only to discover it crumbled to the ground. Rasengan! He spun around quickly to see a bright blue ball of spinning chakra, which slammed into his chest, forcing him to the ground. Sliding the blade of his sword to the ground, Tsuzai placed his fingers in the holes in the handle and brought it down to where the Rasengan hit to finish off the boy. It sunk halfway through and stopped. Suddenly, a blade protruded from the old man's stomach. His eyes widened. But how? I didn't sense him. Before he had a chance to speculate, he fell to his knees and went face first into the ground, his body motionless. Uzumaki Tsuzai was dead. Pain yanked his weapon from the bloody figure. A simple clone. That's all it was. And walked away. We're done here, Conan. Let's go. Kushina sat in a tree, watching the moon. In her hands she held a small daisy. The girl absent-mindedly began to pick the petals off slowly, releasing each one into the breeze. When she was about to pluck the last one off, she looked down and stopped herself. A wind picked up and blew the last petal off. The little girl watched it go and a sudden sense of loss overcame her. The silver-haired ANBU captain looked up at the huge gates. One word reverberated in his head. Home, thought the ANBU. Hey! Open up! He yelled up to the guards. The doors slowly began to open to admit the team to the village hidden in the leaves. When Kushina saw the sheer size of the gates, she was amazed. When she saw what was inside, though, her eyes nearly popped out of her head. The group entered. Welcome, Kushina, to Konoha. This was much more than the girl had imagined. The local village was small. It had a few restaurants, various stores, and even a small brothel. Here, everywhere you looked, there were dango stalls, restaurants, shops of every kind, anything and everything you could imagine, it was here. Unfortunately for her, this was only the front of the village. Once they were at the other side, Kushina saw the tallest building she had ever seen, the Hokage Tower. But what had made her nearly faint was that there were 3 faces carved into the cliff face above. Falcon stood behind the frozen child and put a hand on her head. Magnificent, isn't it? Ibuswh. He chuckled at her loss for words. Come on. You must come and see Hokage-sama. Up in the Hokage's office, Kushina saw a middle-aged man sitting behind a desk, doing paperwork. Hokage-sama, the ANBU team bowed. The Hokage looked up and rose from his seat. The little girl noticed that somehow, this man's face and the third face on the cliff was the same man. The mission was a success, I suppose? Said the Hokage at the ANBU. Hi, Hokage-sama, said the ANBU, nodding his head. The man then looked down at the girl, a small smile on his face. Kushina, isn't it? He squatted down to her eye level. My name is Sarutobi. I am the Hokage of Konoha, and I will do what I can to make you happy here, Kushina. He stood up. You are all dismissed, but leave her belonging here. Hi, Hokage-sama. The 4 ANBU disappeared in a cloud of ninja smoke. The Hokage took the girl's smaller hand in his larger one. Come. I'll show you to your room that you'll be staying in for tonight. Then, I'll give you a tour of the village. Tomorrow, you'll meet the family that has adopted you. He summoned up a group of ninja chimpanzees. Each of you take a bag and follow us to her room. After that, you guys can go. The primates gave an affirmative nod and picked up a bag each. A few minutes later, near the top of the tower, Sarutobi unlocked and opened the door to Kushina's temporary room. Inside, it wasn't very big, a bed, a full bathroom, a tiny kitchen and a living area, but the view made up for that. It looked out over the wild village, and you could just barely see the gates in between the buildings. The girl zoomed over to the sliding glass door that led to the balcony. Kushina yanked the door open, ran out, leaned over the railing and screamed with delight. Passers-by on the ground gave odd looks upwards at the Hokage Tower, wondering what on earth was going on up there. Sarutobi smiled when he saw her approval. I guess you like your room, don't you? She turned around, eyes twinkling. Yeah. Now why don't we go on that tour? Kushina's response was to run out the door, pulling the Hokage along by the hand. Downstairs, outside and safely on the ground, the expedition began. Okay, Kushina, Sarutobi gestured toward the Hokage faces. This is the memorial to the current and past Hokages. A Hokage is the leader of Konoha and also is the most powerful ninja in the village. I am the 3rd Hokage, also known as the Sandaime. My face is the 3rd on the cliff. The girl absorbed all of this information with a hunger. The tower is the Hokage Tower, the office of the Hokage and mission briefing and debriefing rooms. He took her hand once again, like a father would do to their child. There's much more to Konoha than Hokages, you know. Let's go and see the rest of it. And the pair started off. They went up and down the streets, Sarutobi pointing out a good restaurant or two, ninja gear stores and some of those odd stores too. They passed clan complexes, like the Hyuga, Uchiha, Akimichi and such, the Sandaime giving a small history about each. I have a question for you, Kushina. What is it? Do you want to become a ninja? This caught her off guard. Oh, of course. I want to be like my mommy and daddy and be strong. They had rounded a corner, and were looking at the Ninja Academy. Then, when you're 8, you will go there to learn how to be one. That 2 years from now. He looked to horizon. The sun is going down. We better get back to the tower. I have some paperwork I need to get done. They were passing Ichiraku ramen when, Sarutobi-kun? I'm hungry. He looked at the stand. Does ramen sound good to you? I have no idea what that is, but I guess I'll try it. Came the reply. Inside, 2 miso ramens please. A blonde boy sat down on the stool next to Kushina. 1 shrimp ramen please, Mr. Ichiraku. Sarutobi recognized the voice. Minato, you need to stop using your allowance for ramen. I'm going to tell your mother soon. Minato jumped. Sarutobi-san. I didn't see you there, said Minato, acting a little sheepish at being caught by the fire shadow. Kushina looked at the boy. He had messy blonde hair, a loud obnoxious voice and a smile that could lighten up anybody's day. Yet there was something about him. Maybe it was those eyes, those bright sky blue eyes. She really couldn't tell. Here's your ramen, Hokage-san, and here's yours, little miss. A young Tuchi set the 2 bowls down in front of them. Hey, who are you? Minato had finally noticed Kushina after seeing 2 bowls being set down, not one. My name's Kushina. I'm new here. Sarutobi-kun showed me the village today, said Kushina before she broke her chopsticks, and started on her ramen. Cautiously lifting the noodles to her mouth, she took a slow bite. A light suddenly went off in her head. Wow, this stuff is really good. You mean you've never had ramen before? Minato asked innocently as the girl inhaled the rest of her bowl. His was placed in front of him, and he started. Mmm. She managed to get out from bulging cheeks. Kushina swallowed the rest of her ramen, and continued. Back home, we never had any sort of fast food. Mami-chan said it was something about being unhealthy. Minato suddenly had an idea. Hey Sarutobi-san? Can I take Kushina-chan here around Konoha? Give her my own tour? Of course. Just get her back here to my office at sunset. The blonde ramen addict shoved the rest of his noodles down his throat and pulled Kushina from her stool outside onto the street, and they started walking. First of all, what did Sarutobi-san show you already? Well, he showed me some clans like the Uchiha, I think it was called, something like that. The only cool thing he showed me was the Ninja Academy. He told me I can go there when I'm bigger and learn how to become a ninja. I'm going to go, no matter what. Really? Me too. But he hasn't shown you any of the cool hidden spots in the village? No. Great. I've been everywhere, so I know where they are, and I've also found a few myself. Kushina jumped up and down. Show me, he smirked. Just keep up. Hey, I was the fastest of all the kids back home. If I can beat them, I can beat you. Oh really? We'll see about that. And Minato took off. Hey, that's not fair. Even if he didn't use what few ninja skills he had, he was well on his way to earning his future nickname, the Yellow Flash. I don't hear anything else going on up there. One of you go and check it out. Muri raised his hand. I'll go. When he was outside, he couldn't believe his eyes. There were bodies everywhere. Suzuki laid in the middle of it all, his corpse bloody and broken. Speechless, Muri ran back quickly to the chamber and brought everyone else outside. The elders were stunned and shocked at the scene before them. Crying out in despair for their lost loved ones, they ran to their dead sons and daughters, cradling them in their arms. Shizis could not believe her eyes as she walked between the bodies, slowly making her way towards her husband. Upon seeing her lifelong lover and partner in front of her, she flung herself on him, crying his name out to the heavens. It was horrible. The voice frightened the old woman enough to look up so quickly and suddenly that a loud crack could be heard from her neck. How? Shizis began. I knew that the fight wasn't ours the second I saw those two, replied the young Uzumaki. So I did not fight, and I cast a genjutsu around the area I was hiding in to conceal myself. So you saw the battle? The person nodded. Tell me what happened. The person opened their mouth to begin but was silenced by the elder. Later, once the bodies have been brought in. She wiped her tears away, stood and turned around. Now we must rely on Kushina, she announced to everybody. Our time here is over, for if Pain learns he has not destroyed this clan entirely, he will return and eradicate us for good. We will have to repair this complex, and we will lay low until he is dead. Thus the Uzumaki clan disappeared, being all but extinct. Get on my back and close your eyes. Minato shot the girl a look. No peeking, Kushina giggled. Okay. And did what she was told. The two were at the side of the Hokage monument, near the Shodame's head. Hang on tight. He knew he couldn't fail running up the sheer rock face with his chakra feet, like his father had taught him. Beginning up the cliff, Minato clenched his newfound friend's legs tightly in fear of dropping her. A minute after he began, the scary experience was over. Are your eyes still closed? Asked the boy. Yeah, but what did you just do? I almost let go, replied Kushina as she dropped off his back. You'll find out when you open your eyes, he said with a smile. Go on, open them. She opened her eyes, but all she saw was a grinning Minato. Where she began as she turned around. Konoha lay sprawling before her, herself looking down from the first head, the village all lit up for the nightlife. Minato the blonde stepped up to her side. Out of all the secret places in Konoha, this is the coolest one and my favorite. I love it up here. It just feels so open, like you could do anything, he said looking out. He checked the position of the sun, which was halfway below the horizon. He looked over at an awestruck Kushina. How did you find this place? It's amazing. Minato did that foxy grin again and folded his arms behind his head like a future someone would. My dad showed me up here once. He checked the sun again, almost below the horizon. Ah man, Kushina put on a confused look. What? I got to get you back to the tower by sunset, and the sun is nearly gone. Hurry! Get on my back. The girl obeyed and the pair was soon back in the village, running at full speed towards the Hokage tower. Just as the last of the sun disappeared, they skidded to a halt in front of the gates. I think we made it. Kushina managed to get out in between several lungfuls of air. Up in the tower, Sarutobi watched them from his office window. That boy will never let you down, that's for sure, thought the Hokage and went downstairs to greet the two children. I'm glad I can depend on you, Minato. I thought you two wouldn't be here until long after the sun went down. I'll remember this in the future. He looked at Kushina. I have a few things to tell you once you're inside. Now say goodbye. She turned to Minato. Let's meet at the playground tomorrow, okay? See you there. Kushina ran back to Sarutobi and they walked back into the tower. Bye Minato, bye Kushina, replied the blonde as he began to run home. Back upstairs in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi began. Tomorrow, you will move out of your current room here into the household of your foster family. This will happen early in the morning once you are dressed and have something to eat. You won't be able to play with Minato until this is done. An ANB will show you the way to your new family's house. Sarutobi got up from his chair. Now go to bed, you'll need your rest for tomorrow. Kushina was up before the sun was in her excitement. With nothing better to do, she sat on the edge of the balcony watching the sun rise. The higher it rose, the more her excitement built. The ball of fire had cleared the horizon when her stomach finally made contact with her brain, demanding food. She gave in and went into the small kitchen, rummaging through the lower drawers and cabinets until she found a loaf of bread. Tearing the package open, Kushina ate 2 slices and put the rest on the counter. A quick glance at the clock told the girl it was 8 a.m. Better start getting ready, she said to herself. Rummaging through the bag that held all her clothes, she pulled out a pair of dark green capris, a dullish orange hoodie with dark green sleeves and a simple black t-shirt. Kushina put these on and stuffed her PJs back in. After brushing her teeth and hair, she returned to her previous spot on the balcony, waiting for the ANBU to pick her up. Finally, around 9:30, someone knocked on the door. The excited girl leapt up and yanked the door open to find her dog-masked mover and guide behind it. Where are your possessions? He asked. Kushina jabbed a thumb behind her. Back there. Without asking for permission, he went inside and somehow managed to carry everything except for one small bag. You can carry that. Once you got it, follow me to your new family. He walked straight out the door. 10 minutes later, where are we? Near the outside of the village. Your new place is the one up ahead with the blue roofs. The two were walking down a street in a nice neighborhood, and Kushina had a spring in her step, her shoulder-length hair bouncing with each one. The place with the blue roofs looked like a small clan complex, with a wall surrounding the lot and a main doorway in the middle of the wall that was facing the street. A large symbol of a bottom half of a circle with short lines spreading out from the bottom like a sun was painted neatly on the wall to the right of the doorway. There was no sign above the entrance stating the clan's name. The ANBU pulled a bell that hung from the side of the entrance. After a minute of waiting, a brown-haired man appeared by the door. What is your name? He asked. The ninja replied for her. Her name is Uzumaki Kushina. Oh yes. We were expecting you. He stood aside. Come in. They entered and walked down a covered pathway that was above a large pond that reached from one end of the complex to the other, covered in lily pads. Some very large koi and goldfish poked their heads above the water to take a look at the newcomers. At the end of the pathway, they soon encountered an open hallway. The man took them down the left branch and continued until they rounded a corner, and were standing in front of a sliding door. Voices could be heard behind it, and one was definitely a woman's. He opened it, and they walked into a kitchen. Yes, there was a blonde woman at the stove making breakfast. The other person was at the table, eating cereal. Kushina's eyes went wide in disbelief as she recognized the face. Minato? Minato's spoon froze halfway to his mouth. He abandoned his breakfast and pulled Kushina into a tight hug. Kushina. Wait, why are you here? This family is the one that adopted me. I'm going to live here now, she replied. So that means you're going to live with me? The man who had brought her in earlier was surprised. You guys know each other? How? Kushina broke the hug to tell him. Yesterday, me and Sarutobi-kun were eating ramen and Minato comes and joins us. Well then, I know you've met Minato, and I'm his father, Tetsuo, and that's his mother and my wife, Natsumi. We are the last of the Namikaze clan, just us three. Nice to meet you Mr. and Mrs. Namikaze. Minato tugged Kushina's hand. Come on, let's go upstairs. The dynamic duo charged up the stairs, shaking the house in the process. Well, I guess we should follow them and get her settled in, said Tetsuo, letting out a sigh before he went upstairs and found the two in Minato's bedroom, sitting on his bed and talking. Come on guys, let's go to Kushina's bedroom and unpack, he told them. They obediently followed the man to it, which was just down the hall, next to the bathroom. It was average size, 15 feet by 10, and had a closet, 2 windows since it was on the corner of the house, a bed in the corner, a vanity/dresser, and a full-length mirror on the closet door. The room was painted white with a wood floor. Tetsuo turned to the ANBU. You can drop her stuff now. We got it from here. The ninja put Kushina's bags down and poofed away, leaving a cloud of smoke as the only evidence he had ever been there. Kushina, what's in each bag? She pointed to the first bag. The clothes that were in my closet are in that one, the clothes were in my dresser are in that one, my shoes and stuff are in that one, and some other things are in my backpack in Minato's room. Okay Minato, put her clothes in the dresser, and Kushina, put your shoes and things away wherever you want to keep them. I'll put your clothes in the closet. The kids set to work right away, eager to go out and play. As she was unpacking, Kushina came across a picture of her grandparents, her parents and her. She, caught up in a sudden moment of nostalgia, immediately stopped unpacking and sat down on the bed. Minato stopped what he was doing and came over. Hey, what's that? He asked. Kushina handed the picture to him, a tear escaping her emerald eyes. When he saw what it was, he said, Ah, so this is your family? Minato looked back at her, and saw a second tear escape her. Oh, I am sorry. His voice fell and he looked the floor. Oh no, don't be sorry. It's nothing. Kushina gave a small smile and set the picture on top of the dresser. Don't worry. The girl continued with her work. Minato knew she certainly wasn't alright but decided not to press the issue. He turned back and finished putting Kushina's shirts in the middle drawer. Okay Ota-san, I'm done. Kushina kicked her 3/4 empty bag under the bed. Me too. Tetsuo looked up and shook his head. Kushina, finish putting your things away. I saw you push your bag under the bed. Man, she pulled it out and dumped the rest of its contents on the bed, and quickly put things in random places around the room. Done. Okay, now you guys can go. The response was for the two to run out. They were back outside on the street, and were at full speed towards the playground. When they got there, Minato waved to a group of boys around their age, and one of them motioned for him to come over. Come on, the blonde said, I'll introduce you to my friends. He pulled her along the hand to them. Hey guys, what's up? A guy with a brown ponytail answered. Who's she? He motioned to Kushina hiding behind Minato. Meeting adults was no problem, but being introduced to your peers was entirely different. Oh Shikaku, this is Kushina. Kushina, this is Shikaku, and that's Fugaku, Choza, Hayashi, Hizashi, and Inoichi. He pointed to a skinny black-haired guy, a fat boy, two dark brunettes that looked exactly alike, and a platinum blonde guy. Personally, Kushina was disturbed at the sight of the twins, namely because of their white pupilless eyes. Kushina just moved here and is living with me now. He tugged the girl's hand. I'll be right back guys, I'm just going to introduce her to the girls. They walked away. Those two really creeped me out. Kushina whispered in Minato's ear. He laughed. It's because of those eyes, isn't it? They're Hyugas, so they're born with it. Kushina remembered what Sarutobi had said to her about the Hyuga clan. Oh. That explains it. Hey there, Sumiko-chan. Minato blushed a little as he approached a girl with long dark blue hair. She tuned around. Oh hi Minato, I want you to meet Kushina-chan. She's new here, said Minato as he introduced the two to each other. Hi. Kushina said meekly. Some other girls had gathered around the new arrival. Who are you? One of them asked. Kushina. Minato folded his hands behind his head. Well, I'm going to hang out with the guys. And he left. Sumiko turned her attention back to the new girl. So where did you move here from? Kushina managed to gather some confidence back. The Whirlpool country. Oh, so you're from near the beach? Not really. We lived more in the hilly part. Some girls had already lost interest in her and left the group. Sumiko never budged. So why'd you move here? She asked. My family ordered me to come here and live here for the rest of my life. They couldn't come with me. But why'd they make you come here? A big bad guy was coming to kill my clan, so I was sent here so the clan wouldn't die. To say Sumiko was horrified was an understatement. That's awful. Yeah, and what's worse is I'll never see them again. I live in the orphanage. I never even knew my real family. When I enter the academy, I get my own apartment to live in all by myself. Kushina immediately hung on to the change of subject. You're going to the ninja academy too? Yeah. Everyone here is. Sumiko said. Didn't you know that? No. Here, let me explain. The two girls made their way towards the swings and continued to talk, switching from topic to topic. By the middle of the day, Sumiko and Kushina could be mistaken for best friends, which the two now practically were. Kushina had regained her usual demeanor, loud, curious, and carefree, while she discovered that Sumiko was the shy type. Minato appeared with his gang of boys following close behind. He blushed again and couldn't make eye contact with Sumiko as he talked to her. Sumi-chan? Me and Kushina gotta go eat lunch now at home. The girls looked at each other, and Sumiko nodded. I'll be back as soon as I can. Kushina said. See ya. The girls hugged. Bye. Once Minato and Kushina were a block from the playground, Kushina asked, Why do you act so weird around Sumi-chan? The blonde turned a shade of red that could shame an apple. Well, I am sorta kinda like her. Hee. He slightly grinned at the last part. You like her? Yeah. Kushina grinned evilly. Ooh, I'm going to tell her next time I see her. No. He gave her the puppy eyes treatment. No, please don't. Please, pretty please don't tell her. She sighed and the mischievous look drained from her face. Okay, I won't. The grin returned because on the inside, she was giggling madly. 2 years later, a week before the academy starts, the door opened. Hey Minato? The moonlight shone through the window onto the boys sprawled out in bed. MMPF? Came the groggy reply. Can I sleep with you tonight? Why? Did you have one of you family nightmares again? Yeah. I dunno why. I had a thought they stopped a year and a half ago, said Kushina as she climbed in bed with him. Night Minato. Good night Kushina, said Minato smiling at her before putting his arm around Kushina and falling back to sleep. In the morning, Kushina felt herself curled up against something hard yet soft, large and warm. She snuggled into it and sighed contentedly. Whatever who or what it was smelled good. It was probably a person because a pair of arms was wrapped around her waist. She opened her eyes partway to discover it was a bare chest she was against. She shrieked at the top of her lungs and sprang out of the bed she was in. Hyperventilating, the 8-year-old started blubbering nonsense. The scream awoke Minato, making him jump out too, head whipping around for the source of it. What was that? The girl was finally able to say real words. Yumi bed what? Minato scratched his head. Well, last night, you had a family nightmare and climbed into bed with me. At least, that what I could remember since I was half awake. Kushina relaxed immediately. Oh good. Why, do you think something else happened? She blushed. No, nothing. A week later, the first day of the academy, Natsumi knelt down to her son's and adopted daughter's eye level. Now behave you two, especially you Kushina. Don't pull any tricks on your sensei. She presented them both with backpacks packed with the required textbooks and lunch. The woman kissed them both on the cheek. Ugh, Mom! Groaned Minato as he wiped where her lips had just been. Natsumi smiled. Now go have fun at the academy and become great ninjas. And she pushed them out the kitchen doorway. The two best friends rounded the corner, and saw a small crowd of parents and kids in front of the ninja academy, their local group of friends, and they joined up and began to talk excitedly about the coming year. A half hour later, a chunin appeared on the roof. Everybody, he announced, I welcome you to Konoha's Ninja Academy. Newcomers welcome and returning students, we welcome you as well. I asked the first graders to gather by the tree over there, the second years to go to the playground, the third years to the center of the yard, and the fourth years by the entrance here. Parents said goodbye to their child or children, and the children went to their respective meeting places. The ninja who welcomed them came over to the first graders. All of you follow me inside to your classroom. They went inside, down a hallway, turned right down another hallway, and entered the first classroom on the right. Take a seat, everybody. The chunin pointed towards the desks. Kushina sat down in a seat between the top and bottom rows, between Sumiko and Minato. Their new sensei began. Now here in the academy, we expect you to do your very best and give everything your all, since you are becoming ninja. First, before we actually start class, I would everyone to introduce themselves and share some of your likes and dislikes, maybe a thing or two about yourself. My name is Yukio Madoka. I like cats and teaching. I am married and have a daughter. He pointed to the boy on the opposite side of the room in the first row. Your turn. 4 years later, the last day of the academy. Morning, Madoka-sensei. Kushina yelled with a big smile as she walked in the door. She tossed him a small scroll. It's from Natsumi-chan. She pulled a hooded raincoat out of her backpack and put it on, snickering evilly. I can't wait to see the look on his face. Minato saw her face and ran out of the room, knowing that it only meant one thing. Kushina was up to something. Madoka opened the scroll, only to find his face, the rest of the room, and everything and everyone else in it covered in yellow and purple polka-dotted paint. Kushina was rolling on the floor laughing really hard, pointing at her teacher. A vein popped on Madoka's newly redecorated face. Kushina, he roared, you just ruined it for your classmates. Everybody, clean up this room and then form a line in the front of the classroom. Groans from everyone. Thanks a lot, Kushina. Geez, why do we have to clean this up? Is it impossible for you not to pull a prank every single day? Huh, come on, you know you loved it. She retorted back. After the whole morning was spent cleaning, everybody made that line. Now started a clean but still fuming Madoka. Everybody perform the henge and transform into the person behind you in line. Great. The one skill I suck at. Kushina whispered under her breath. When it came her turn, the 12-year-old girl was barely able to transform. Now everybody, take a seat and wait to be called to the room next door for your genin exam. The teacher exited the room. Minato went before Kushina. You got this, Minato. He told himself. He entered the testing room. Madoka sat behind a desk with a clipboard in hand and 4 rows of forehead protectors in front of him, some already gone. Stand in the middle of the room. Ordered his teacher. Minato did as instructed. Make 3 clones. The boy gulped and nodded. Tiger, boar, ox, dog. Bunshin no jutsu. The 3 clones appeared, one on either side and the last one behind him. Madoka scribbled something on his clipboard and began to clap. Good job, Minato. You're the new rookie of the year. Come and get your forehead protector. The blonde broke into a wide smile. Thank you. He grabbed his proof of graduation and quickly tied it around his head. Go to the class across the hall. All the other graduates are waiting there. Yes, Madoka-sensei. Minato left the room. There were 2 people left when Kushina was called. A minute later, Minato was pulled into a bone-crushing hug by a now genin Kushina. Once everybody had tested and passed, Madoka entered the classroom. I congratulate you all for passing your exams and making it to genin. All of you are dismissed, but meet here at 800 hours tomorrow to be put into teams and meet your jounin senseis. Team 3, Namikaze Minato, Jiru Hitomi and Goro Akio. Damn, I'm not with Minato. Kushina muttered. She looked at him and they exchanged sympathetic glances. Both wanted the same thing, to be with each other on the same team. Team 5, Hyuga Hizashi, Uzumaki Kushina and Kenichi Sumiko. This announcement changed the mood entirely. The girls looked at each other and smiled. At least I'm with Sumiko. As the rest of the teams were announced, Kushina just sat there, staring off into space. Now I will introduce your jounin senseis, said the teacher opening the door as the each jounin came in one by one looking at the students with veteran eyes. 9 jounin walked in the door. A girl raised her hand. Madoka-sensei, there are 10 teams but only 9 senseis. Where's the last one? Madoka checked off each name to see who was missing. A young man with a pair of binoculars looked through them to a group of ladies in the hot springs, or a certain blonde to be exact. He gave a perverted giggle and a minor nosebleed when he got a particularly good view of her huge goodies, as he liked to call them. She turned around and he quickly escaped to avoid being seen, as she would kill him if she ever found out he was peeping. The man checked his watch, cursed and ran off. The classroom doors slammed open and a white long-haired jounin skidded into the room. Sorry I'm late, Madooko-san. I got held up. Kushina raised an eyebrow at this new arrival. I feel so bad for whoever is gonna get this guy as their sensei. He's clearly a pervert. She observed the dried lines of blood under his nose. Glad you could make it, Jiraiya-san. I was about to announce what team you were assigned to, which will be Team 3. Ahahaha. Kushina fell out of her seat and clutched her stomach, laughing so hard she thought she was going to die. Minato, good luck with him, she said when she had gotten up from the floor. A vein popped on Jiraiya's forehead. Hey! What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing, pervert. Why you little? Yelled Jiraiya, only to stop when Madooko put a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder. Calm down, Jiraiya-san. She gets to me too, so just ignore it. Now go take your team. Fine. Come on guys, let's go. He left the room with Minato and company in tow. Over the course of the day and the next, both Kushina's and Minato's teams stayed together through their individual tests. Within the first year of being an official ninja, Kushina had been on 136 D-ranked missions, 129 of which were successful and 5 C-ranked missions, all of them successful. From those, 12 were with Minato or his team. When they were together on a mission, Minato didn't look away when he spoke to Sumiko, and he didn't blush anymore either. It seemed he had outgrown that little childhood crush. The Chunin exams were coming around, and this time, she was allowed to participate in them in Suna after being denied the chance twice. Kushina had never been to the Sand Village, but she could claim she had when she came back a Chunin. Minato was made a Chunin in the last exams after a spectacular fight with a Cloud Genin. It was shortly after when the dynamic duo were assigned their first C-ranked mission together. The first pebble was placed that would change the course if the river. Minato sat up in his sleeping bag because his bladder was about to burst. He went out of the tent into the woods to do his business, not noticing that someone else's sleeping bag was empty as well. The boy was coming back from his business when he saw Kushina sitting up in a tree, her back to the trunk and plucking petals off of a flower, like she had done all those years ago. She sat so her head was toward the moon, its light outlining her slim figure. Part because he was half asleep, part because of the moonlight. In Minato's eyes, Kushina looked more than a friend, more than a girl. She looked like something surreal, like a goddess from the heavens. Hey Kushina, he called up to her. Why are you up? Can't sleep. Minato jumped up onto the branch and sat in front of her. Can I join you? Sure. Kushina got up from her spot and motioned for him to sit where he had been. He moved and she sank into his arms, up against his chest. The moon is really bright tonight. Minato commented. Just then, something came up inside of Kushina, something she had never felt before. It felt like butterflies in her stomach. It wasn't a bad feeling, she knew that. Minato felt safe there with her, safer than he had felt for a long time. He felt safe enough to fall asleep, locking the 14-year-old girl in place, with his head on her shoulder and his arms around her, but she didn't mind. Kushina liked it there. In the morning, Jiraiya was the first one up. This was one of his sane mornings when he wasn't thinking of girls in the hot springs. Walking around, he saw something out of place, something in a tree. Jiraiya walked closer and saw Minato and Kushina up in the tree, asleep in each other's arms. They, together, gave off a feeling of serenity and calmness he rarely saw in couples. I better not disturb them. And the Jounin walked back to camp. The rising sun reached through the trees and hit Minato's eyes. He groaned and turned his head the other way, but he had already woken Kushina up. She yawned and stretched, stood up and saw Minato trying to stay asleep, smirking at his efforts. She crouched down and poked him on the forehead. Good morning, sleepyhead. No, get up. The blonde sleep-talked. Kushina giggled and ruffled his hair. Come on, time to go. Back at camp, Jiraiya saw the two emerge from the trees together. He turned towards them and grinned. What are you smiling at, Ero-sensei? Kushina said warningly. Jiraiya just grinned even wider, shook his head and turned away. A few years later, Kushina is 16, 98, 99, 3,000 yen. Good, I do have enough to buy my own apartment. Then to decorate it, I'll need 900, which I also have saved up. I guess I can move. Kushina was on her bed, counting her saving up, seeing if she had enough to buy her own place. I'll tell Minato-kun, Natsumi-chan and Tetsuo-san later. At the dinner table later that night, Kushina put down her chopsticks. Guys, I have an announcement to make. Go on. I am planning to get my own apartment. Natsumi sighed. I knew this would happen someday. She stood up. Stay right here. The woman left and returned with a small wooden box. Kushina, this is your fund for your own place that we started when you started to go to the academy. Here, take it. She passed the box to Kushina. It's yours to keep. Use it how you want. Kushina couldn't find any words to say that could express her thanks. She just stared at the box. When do you plan to move? Tetsuo asked. within the next month or two. I have to skim through the newspaper ads and look at a few places first. After dinner had been cleaned up, Minato, though not in a rough and hostile way, pinned Kushina against the wall in the upstairs hallway, his arms supporting him. How long have you been thinking about this? Kushina saw concern and sadness in his eyes, something she had never seen before. Ever since I turned 16. Why? For a couple months now, Minato thought. If you move, I'll feel like I've lost you because to me, you're more than my best friend, more than someone who's like my sister. Kushina, you're just more. I feel safe and calm around you. I don't want to lose that feeling. Minato looked down, unable to meet her eyes. Minato, I can't go back now. I've told your mom and dad, I've been saving money, I want and I need to do this. I can't live here forever. I'm not even a real part of your family. His eyes shot up at that last statement. Don't say that. Don't ever say that. You're as much a part of this family as I am. You're right, it was a bad thought. He released her, and they walked towards their rooms. If you can't be here, can I be with you there? Kushina paused at her doorway. We'll see. Later that week, Arg, Sumiko, I don't know what to do with him. I want to let him live with me, but something is telling me no. I don't know. Sumiko and Kushina were at a cafe like they were every Friday. Sumiko tapped her finger on her chin. Well, if it was me, I would live alone for a bit, maybe 6 months or more, and then I would let him move in because, well, you two have lived together under one roof for almost all your lives. I would want to be alone and not to have to see him every single day, because breaks are always nice. The redhead sighed. Thanks, Sumiko. I knew I could always rely on your brain since it always seems to turn out perfectly, and it sure did since Minato agreed, albeit solemnly, but still happy that she accepted. After Kushina had found a place not far from the village gates and moved in, she hardly saw the boy anymore. She after the first few weeks also felt that loneliness and emptiness that he had described all that time ago in the hall. She finally sent out a letter to him after those months were up, inviting him to come and move in with her. When the day came, Kushina sat on her couch, waiting for him to arrive. Normally, Sumiko would be here with her to help him move, but she was on a beranked mission to deliver a scroll to one of the fire daimyo's advisors. After waiting for what seemed like hours, the doorbell finally rang. Kushina got up and opened the door and found Minato there as expected. What she did not expect was for Minato to lift her up, to which she squeaked, and firmly plant a kiss on her lips. Suddenly she felt some sort of odd rush urging her to go on that she didn't understand. When she finally did, before she could do anything, Minato had put her down. He broke contact and whispered in her ear, "You won't ever believe how much I miss you, Kushina. You won't ever believe." The girl just stood there, dumbfounded at what had just happened. Did Minato just before she could complete that thought, she fainted and fell with a thud. Kushina? Minato kneeled down to her. Kushina. I think I went a bit too far. 7 months later, Kushina is now 17. April was coming around and that meant the Sakura festival was too. Kushina went to Sumiko's house to get ready for this once-a-year event. Minato was back at the apartment putting on a light blue kimono embroidered with dragons. He and Kushina agreed to meet at a certain tree, and they did. When he saw her, one word in his mind could describe her: beautiful. She wore a red kimono embroidered with phoenixes. Her hair that usually reached down to about her mid-back was tied up on a bun secured with a very nice pair of hair sticks, leaving the front of her hair hanging out in front of her face. He, on the other hand, looked really cute to Kushina. Without his forehead protector holding his wild hair back, it hung just above his eyes. As she walked up to him, she noticed how tall he had become. She only came up to his shoulder, whereas a few years ago, they were roughly the same height. The jounin offered his arm. Shall we go? She hooked her arm around his. Of course. They spent the night playing those carnival games, listening to traditional music and walking around, enjoying themselves. Eventually, both of their feet got tired and they sat down on a bench underneath a blooming sakura tree. The moon reached through the petals, spotting the two's heads with dots of light. He mumbled. The moon is bright tonight. Kushina smirked at that. It brought her back to that mission that they had had together as chunin. The memory just suddenly clicked something inside her head. Her hand slowly slid across the seat of the bench towards Minato's, unsure of what it was doing. Hell, she herself didn't know what was happening. All she knew was that if she let this moment go, she would regret it later for her whole life. She touched it, and he looked down at it, wonder and countless thanks in his eyes. I think I'm ready, Minato, and only if you are. That night the two 17-year-olds made a decision to get together, a life-changing and ultimately, a decision that changed the course of history. 1 year later, Minato and Kushina are both now 18. Shing, thunk 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 thunk. Minato created a one-hand seal, and was gone in a flash. He silently and instantly transported to the spots he had just thrown the special kunai. He cut off the dummy's head the second he appeared with the kunai, and went straight on to the next one. When all 4 of the dummies were killed, Minato went back to the same place he started and managed to stand for a moment before falling to his hands and knees, panting heavily. Good. He thought. I'm getting better. I didn't faint this time. Another year later, the couple was walking together through the streets of Konoha to the Sandame's office. Kushina-chan, what the coolest and most powerful jutsu you have ever seen? The teenage girl sorted through her memories of past missions. She decided on a B-ranked water jutsu, but another, more faded memory came out of the dark in her mind. I can't remember exactly where. I think it was my old clan, and they had a technique. It required no hand seals, which is pretty efficient if I must say so. I saw Tsuzai-kun, my grandfather, perform it once in front of me. It was a spinning ball of chakra that could plow through almost anything. I think it was called Rasengan. Judging by today's standards, it would be a very high A-rank jutsu. Sounds simple enough. Maybe I can recreate it after I master Hyarishin no Jutsu, of course. By the way, how's that one coming along? Good. I can teleport 12 times without passing out, said Minato as they were by that time both at the gates. State your purpose, said one of the guards. This was due process, even if he knew who these two were. Come by request of Hokage-sama, replied the blonde. The guard nodded. Go through. Up in the Hokage office, Minato got some startling news. You want me to be what? I'm going to retire in a few years, so I am warning you beforehand. During my last year, you are going to be alongside me, learning how to fill out forms and paperwork, learning how to logically and learning what to do if the village is under attack, Sarutobi said. Minato slammed his hand down on the Hokage's desk. Sarutobi-san, I know it was and still is my life goal to become Hokage, but at my age, I don't think I'm ready. I'm too young. And besides, you're still strong and healthy, you have another 10 years at least. He yelled angrily. Stop, Minato. Listen to the logic behind my decision. 1. I picked you because of Orochimaru. He gives me a bad feeling that he would use his place as Hokage to do other things, so you are the only candidate left. 2. I am past my prime and I'm not as strong as I used to be. 3. You have a strong will of fire, the strongest one I have seen in a decade. You will do well in passing that on to your future children and the future children of Konoha as its Hokage. Minato paced as Kushina just stood there calmly, soaking up this news. Calm down, Minato-kun. He said a few years, not a few weeks. You have time to plan things out. The blonde stopped, and took her hands in his. It's just that I'm so shocked, Kushina-chan. I didn't expect this to happen so soon. I'm not even 20, and I'm told I'm going to be the Yondaime. So? Sarutobi injected. I was told I was going to be the next Hokage by the Shodaime and Nidaime when I was 14, 5 years younger than you are now. I was actually more confused than shocked. He chuckled at the memory. Until my last year in office, tell only the ones you trust with your lives of this. At the beginning of that last year, I will announce it to the village. You are dismissed. The teens bowed and left. Eventually, only Hayashi, Fugaku, Sumiko, Minato's parents and even Jiraiya were told of Minato's future. The Hyuga and Uchiha merely congratulated him, though Sumiko, Tetsuo and Natsumi jumped on the Hokage to be and were extremely happy for him. The pervert, on the other hand, gave a knowing smile when it reached his ears and said there was no way you couldn't become Hokage anyways, especially the way you said it during the belt test when you were tied to the post. I remember you were so pissed because you were the number 1 rookie but you still ended up there. Minato, again, proved that he was a worthy Hokage to be when after many months of practicing, he perfected the Hyarishin no Jutsu. He began to work on his next project, the Rasengan. Why the hell can't I get this right? She said it was a spinning ball of chakra. I've got the spinning part, said Minato, concentrated chakra in his hand and spun it in a clockwise direction. How do I get the ball? It's just a disc of chakra. I can't get this. I need to talk to her again, thought Minato before left the training ground and headed back to the apartment that he and Kushina shared. It wasn't all that bad sharing it with a girl, seeing as they were boyfriend and girlfriend. He unlocked the door, and called out. Kushina-chan? Are you home? Her voice answered from the office. I'm in here, writing my mission report. Hey, by the way, you got a letter in the mail from the Hokage. Minato groaned. He made me the future Yondaime. What else could he want from me? Hey! Stop complaining. She called from the other room. A lot of shinobi and kanochi in this village would kill to be in your position right now. He inwardly sighed and went into the kitchen and found the letter on the counter. Opening it, he began to read glumly. Dear Minato-san, congratulations. You have been selected to be one of the 10 Jounin senseis for this year's graduating genin class. If you would like to accept, please attend the meeting on April 6th at 9 a.m. in the Hokage office. If you would like to withdraw, please contact my secretary. From the office of the Sandaime. P.S. I know it may seem like I'm asking a lot of you, Minato, but trust me, this will help you when you become the Hokage. The 20-year-old man walked into the office, eyes glued to the paper, rereading that last line over and over. What do you think, Kushina? He showed her the letter. She put down her pen, took it and read it. I think you should. Besides, you might get some parenting skills from it, said Kushina, winking at him at that last comment. Minato smiled, knowing exactly what she meant by that last notion. Whatever you say, baby. He leaned down and gave her a quick peck on the cheek. I need to ask you something. Can you give me a description of the Rasengan again? I can't seem to get it right. It was a swirling ball of chakra. It could plow through anything. It didn't need any hand seals. That's about as descriptive as I can get since it's only a faint memory. She returned to her writing. He sat down in a nearby chair and leaned on his arm. I got the swirling part down except when I swirl it, it's a disc, not a sphere. How do you think I could solve that? Kushina paused in the middle of writing a sentence, and gave a small smile. You're really dedicated to getting it, aren't you? Yeah. He mumbled, if I complete it, well, it'd be as if I learned something from your family, and I really want to. If I could, I would have liked to talk to your father at some point about that, and other certain things. Kushina left her chair and went into the bedroom, bringing back the old picture of her family. She sat back down and stared at it for a bit. I never noticed how much you look like my father. Minato put his hand out expectantly, and she put the portrait in his hand. Getting back to the point, what direction are you spinning the chakra in? After comparing himself to her father, he answered, clockwise. So it's one direction, and it takes the form of a disc? Yeah, he jumped out of the chair as if he had just sat on a small shuriken. Bingo! He scooped Kushina up in his arms and gave her a bone-crushing hug. Thanks, Kushina-chan, I think I just solved my problem. Minato ran out as if Shinigami himself was chasing after him. Kushina just stood there, cluelessness written all over her face. What did I do? At the meeting for the future Jounin senseis, Sarutobi cleared his throat. I thank you all for accepting to become Jounin senseis for this year's graduating ninja academy class. These genin teams are the future shinobi and kanochis of Konoha. It is your job to make sure that they get the proper experience and early training as official ninjas. As you may know, you will test your genin teams if they are actually worthy of being considered competent ninjas. Preferably, test your teams with the same or similar tests that you were given as a genin. This will ensure that your teachings and ninja values will be passed on. Any questions so far? No one raised their hand. Good. Once those of you that have graduated your genin start going on missions, I want you to give me a weekly report on what you have accomplished, describing their improvements in their skills, teamwork, and the like. Now I hope you all find your teams satisfactory. These are profiles of your teams that you will be given to test and teach. He motioned for the Chunin helpers to pass out the folders. Each team has been carefully constructed so as balance out skill levels and academics levels. For example, the one with the highest grades will be paired with the lowest so it would be about the same as a team of average students. Minato opened his folder, which had confidential information, special squadron stamped in red letters on the front. It contained 3 profiles of each of his future students. The first had the name Uchiha Obito. The second had the name Rin. The third one had the name Hitaki Kakashi, but his paper looked several years older than the other students' profiles. The White Fang's son and an Uchiha on the same team? That's odd. Then he looked at the grades of his future students. Rin was in the top 25% and Kakashi was the Rookie of the Year in the Genin graduates 7 years ago, like Minato had been when he was a Genin. What really shocked Minato was that the Uchiha graduated at the bottom of his class. An Uchiha at the bottom? Wow. I must meet this kid. 1 week later, the day after the academy graduation exam. Okay, let's start by sharing our names, our goals, a like and dislike, and a thing about ourselves. The Jounin eyed them over. My name is Namikaze Minato. I like ramen and dislike people who are full of themselves. I have a girlfriend that I live with and I plan to propose to her sometime in the near future. I created and mastered the Hyarishin no Jutsu, and am working on creating the Rasengan. Minato nodded at the white-haired boy. Your turn. My name is Hitaki Kakashi. I aim to restore honor to my family name, after my father ruined it. I like to train and follow by the rules of a ninja. What I don't like are people who break them. He gave the evil eye to the boy wearing the orange goggles. I am also a Chunin. A Chunin? Why did Sarutobi-san place you on this team then? He told me I need to be humiliated a bit so I don't get too cocky and proud, and he also wanted me to make some friends that were my age. Kakashi's voice had no emotion in it, strangely enough. Okay then. Minato nodded at the girl, signifying it was her turn. I am Rin. I want to become an accomplished medic nin, as my family is a well-respected line of medics. What I don't like is people getting grossed out by a bit of guts and blood. I tell them that they're all natural and that the stuff is inside them, but they still don't like to even think about them. Her sensei gave a small smile in approval. My name is Uchiha Obito. I want to awaken my Sharingan and impress my father. I like eating sushi. What I hate is when I put too much wasabi on my sushi and make it too spicy. Minato sighed. Well, you sure are all different. I guess this is enough for today. Meet at Training Ground 3 tomorrow and 600 hours sharp, and don't bother to eat anything for breakfast because you'll get sick. The next day, Rin stamped her foot. Where is he? She said, frustrated. He should have been here 15 minutes ago. Is Obito always this late? Asked Minato. Yeah. He's never on time for class and always has a stupid excuse for being late. The girl said a bit enthusiastically. Sorry I'm late, guys. I had to help a little old lady across the street, and she was going really slowly. Obito ran up to them. I see what you mean, Rin, said Minato. He pointed to 2 portable lunches on the nearby rock that had an alarm clock between them, and then to the 2 bells attached to his vest. You see these bells? Each of you must get these from me by noon, and when you do, you can eat a lunch that's over there. I will set the clock, and when I am finished, begin. Kakashi raised his hand. Minato-sensei, there are 2 bells but 3 of us. What happens to the person that doesn't get a bell? Oh, that? The person who doesn't get a bell is sent back to the academy. Thought I'd throw that in. The two genins' jaws dropped. What? Yes, that's right. The loser gets sent back. That includes you. Kakashi the boy immediately stiffened. Minato walked over to the alarm clock and pushed a button on it. Begin. All three immediately jumped into the trees and bushes to hide themselves. Good. They understand that concept. Hey! Obito! Is that you? Kakashi whispered through the bushes. I'm over here, replied the boy. Look, this sensei guy is really strong because I researched the Hierarchin no Jutsu last night, and it's an instant teleportation jutsu that's borderline S rank. If we're going to get anything done, we need to work together because I can tell you don't like me so much. Where's Rin? Obito pointed across the clearing. I think I saw her jump over that way. Then that's where we're going. We need her for this. The boys jumped through trees towards her. Rin, that's you Obito, right? Yes. Kakashi has a plan because Minato-sensei is really strong. Tell her it. Okay, first, Obito will. Once the plan had been described, the three put themselves in their positions around the clearing, where Minato was laying in the center, watching the clouds. Obito saw the signal, a flash of light off of the kunai that Kakashi was holding. He released his own string of kunai at his sensei, and Rin threw a bunch of shuriken at the target from behind her tree as well. Minato disappeared and reappeared next to the rock that had the clock and the lunches using his teleportation jutsu. Good. I think they got it. Let's just make sure. He didn't have to make a move, because a small ninja dog leaped at him from behind, forcing him into the open. Summons? Kakashi must be more advanced than I thought. Then at once, Rin came rushing at him on his left, and Obito on his right, ready to strike with their weapons. He jumped up to avoid them and began a chain of hand seals, but before he could finish them, someone grabbed his hand and pressed the kunai against his neck. Kakashi reached for the bells, but Minato quickly used the replacement jutsu and replaced himself with a log. Touching down in the middle of the clearing, Minato began to clap. All right. You all pass. Are you serious? Came Obito's voice from the trees. We pass? I thought we had to get the bells. Kakashi walked towards Minato and stopped 5 feet away. I knew it, he said. Obito, Rin, come here. You want to know why we passed? I think I figured it out. Okay then, tell me why you think you all passed my test. Let me hear your reason. Minato crossed his arms in front of the three, waiting for an answer. I did some research last night on the teleportation jutsu you said you created, the Flying Thunder God technique, as it's commonly called. I found that it was a very high-ranked jutsu, so I knew that one of us, not even me, could go against you and get, or even touch the bells. So I figured that if we all came together and worked as a team, we might be able to get one. Since I have been on missions before, I have learned that teamwork is the most essential part of being a ninja and can do more than each ninja fending for himself. Good explanation, Kakashi. And yes, that's what I was testing you on. Teamwork, the ability to work and fight together. You must work with your teammates on a mission, even if you don't like them or hate them. That's what most ninjas lack these days, even if it is essential. Now, who wants one of the lunches over there? He pointed to the boxes on the rock. I do. Obito started jumping up and down. I guess I'll have the other, said Kakashi. Okay then, you guys can eat here while me and Rin go to Ichiraku Ramen to get takeout. What? Ah, come on Minato-sensei, if she goes, can't we all go? Pleaded Obito. He really did want that ramen. The Jounin chuckled. Hey, someone has to eat those lunches. 1 year later, Kushina-chan, I have no idea what to pack. Minato yelled from the bedroom. Do you know how long you're going to be at the exams? She asked from the kitchen. No idea. These are the Chunin exams. They can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. Remember yours? Those took a whole month and a half. Mine took 3 weeks. Each test is different. Then just take a few of your uniforms, 2 comfy outfits that you can relax in and maybe a bathing suit because the hotel might have a pool. Did you check that? A loud bang was heard. Ah shit. She paused. You didn't hear that? Of course I didn't. 2 weeks later. Wow, Minato-sensei, the grass village is so cool. Obito jumped up and down. Can you show some maturity? You're going to be tested for Chunin, so act like one. Rin shot at him. Minato looked out off the cliff. The grass village was a bit like Suna, surrounded by cliffs, but filling the bowl were enormous trees, bigger around than the Hokage Tower and taller than the monument, bringing them right up to the level of the edge of the valley edge and passing it. In those trees were houses, stores and the like, with wooden platforms surrounding each entrance like a ring around the trees. These were interconnected by rope suspension bridges, and there were multiple levels on each tree. Huge bamboo stalks filled in some of the large gaps between their larger neighbors and blocked out most of the sunlight, making the whole village of tree houses dim, humid and basically how a jungle should feel. Come on guys. Let's go to the hotel. A month later, those exams were way too easy. I almost wish they were harder, because then, I could have activated my Sharingan. The Uchiha folded his arms behind his head. Don't complain Obito. You and Rin got to Chunin and that's what matters and that's what we came here for. You should be grateful because you made it mostly out of luck you know. The high-level Chunin kept on looking forward, a bit of mockery in that last statement. Shut up, Kakashi. You're just mad because I'm now the same rank as you. Obito pointed at the boy. No, I am not. Yes, you are. No. Yes. Face it, you don't like me being a chunin because now you can't boss me around. He teased. Rin came up between them. Guys, stop it. Kakashi, don't feel bad because you said you were thinking about the Jounin exam soon in Obito. I know you are very proud of yourself, but please shut up. You're getting on my nerves. That night, Obito, as punishment for being annoying, took first watch at camp that night. At about 2 a.m., he sensed a swarm of ninjas heading towards them. Quickly, he woke his teammates and they took down camp, masked their chakra and hid in the bushes, just as the first of the foreign ninjas passed them overhead, jumping through the trees. Those are rock ninja. What do you think they're doing? Obito whisper asked his sensei. No idea, replied Minato. But there are a lot of them, and they're heading towards the grass village. When they are all gone, we are going straight back to Konoha as fast as we can and going straight to the Hokage and reporting this to him. A day later, Hokage-sama, both Obito and Rin were promoted to Chunin level. However, on our way back to Konoha, we crossed paths with an extremely large force of rock nins. They were heading towards the grass village at a very high speed, as if planning to take it by surprise. I wouldn't be astonished if there were 350 at least, and that was just passing over our heads as we hid. We do not know how expansive it was, but it comprised of mostly Jounin, Chunin and maybe high-level Genin, said Minato. Team 3 nodded an affirmative behind him. Sarutobi sat there a bit before taking a pull on his pipe. This is very startling news. Do you know if any other teams have encountered them? No. We were totally alone. He again sat there thinking. Finally, he said, you 3 are dismissed, but Minato, stay here. The teens bowed and left. He motioned for Minato to stand behind the desk. You are going to be beside me through this. I can tell a Wagakure is trying to start a war here, and it won't be pretty. You're going to learn how to be a Hokage, Minato. A year and a half later, an hour after midnight, Kushina unlocked the door and walked into her apartment. She was tired from the assassination mission she just returned from, didn't bother to take a shower, and just changed into her pajamas and flopped down on the unoccupied side of the bed. Minato woke up from the sudden movement, and put his arm around her waist, pulling her into him. I'm so glad you're alive, Kushina-hime. I'm so glad you didn't die. A tear escaped him. She turned around in his arms, looking at him and saw him trying and failing to hold back his tears. Propping herself up on her elbow, she said, I'll always come back. Why are you saying that? His voice quivered. Obito died on our mission 5 days ago. Rin, Kakashi and I are suspended for the week of ninja duties. Minato began to cry silently. He was such a good boy. He had a lot of potential and such a big heart. I know that this is war, but this is different. He shouldn't have died. Kushina hugged her lover. You're right. This is war and many ninja are sacrificed for it to end, but we gotta look forward and try to get to the end of this war and not to the losses that we have suffered. We must look on the bright side of all this. Don't forget Obito. I liked him too, but forget the pain you felt when he died and he'll be alright. This is just like when your parents died. Through the tears he smiled that bright smile she loved so much. You always know what say. That's another reason why I love you. Could you say one more thing please? What's that? Could you say yes to marrying me? Even if the room was dark, he could still see a glimmer of light in her eyes. Once glanced at those and they told all. Before she even said her answer, he whispered thank you. And closed the gap between them. A month later. My dear people of Konoha, these are grim days for us, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I can tell that this war with IWA will end soon and we will win, mostly thanks to the efforts of my successor. Sarutobi yelled out loud in a clear voice from the top of the Hokage Tower. Many of you see him as the best ninja that this village has ever created, as he invented the Rasengan and Flying Thunder God technique. The latter led him to his nickname. So now I present to you, the future Yondaime Hokage, the Yellow Flash of Konoha, Namikaze Minato. The people cheered, ninja and civilian alike, as Minato stepped up onto the railing to be seen by the people. Tell me, do you approve of my decision? The crowd roared an evident yes. Look forward to this day 1 year from now, as that is when he will take office. Hopefully by then, the third great ninja war will over. So, now go and celebrate. Be happy, for a new era is about to begin. The Sandaime went out of the public eyesight, pulling Minato along with him, and sighed. We're going to have one hell of a tomorrow. Glad that mission is finally over. Kushina grumbled. It had been a year since Minato was sworn into office and she had married him. Come on, it was only a month. It wasn't that long, said one of her teammates. Yes, I know, but it seemed to drag on forever and ever because they said it would take 2 weeks, which ended up being a month. I just want to see Minato-kun. The ANBU squad entered the forest directly surrounding the southern gate. Looks like you'll see your Hokage play toy sooner than you think, said the hawk-masked ANBU next to her, earning the man a quick hit to his groin, making the man fall to his knees before catching up to them with a noticeable limp in his walk. At the Play Toys office, Kushina stood patiently as the squad leader gave the mission debrief. When he was done, Minato said, have the mission report on my desk by the day after tomorrow. You are all dismissed, except for you, Kushina. Even if she was his wife, his voice kept that stern, formal tone. When the rest of the team had left, he relaxed, saying, I have a surprise for you at home. Why would you give me a surprise so randomly? Tonight is Valentine's Day night, remember? Oh, I forgot. I didn't get him a gift. I'll be waiting. Minato disappeared using the body flicker. Kushina jumped across the rooftops to the Hokage residence. She unlocked the door and walked in, throwing her ANBU mask and keys in the kitchen table. Where's my surprise? She called out. Over here. His voice came from the bedroom. She walked over and opened the door. Inside, he was lying on the bed, naked as the day he was born, with a red bow tie around his neck. What do you think of your present? He asked. Love it. I absolutely love it. Kushina took off her pack and her hair put of its ponytail. Well? He watched her sit on the other side of the bed. Aren't you going to unwrap it? She turned around and faced him, grinning mischievously. You bet I am. And while they kissed, her hands wandered after taking off the bow tie and throwing it on the floor, while he began to take off her clothes. 3 weeks later. Ugh. I hate this. Kushina flopped down on the couch with a hot cup of tea in her hands. Why am I so sick? She moaned. Beats me. A voice said from behind her. Besides, it means we have more time for each other. Minato jumped over the couch and landed next to her. He, like a child, put his head on Kushina's shoulder and sighed. Stop. She pushed his head off. Whatever I have, I don't want to give it to you, please? Minato said as he gave her the puppy eyes. Enerp. Kushina clapped her hand over her mouth and made a mad dash for the bathroom. Seconds later, she could be heard hurling her recently eaten breakfast into the toilet, and then the sound of it flushing. She came out, holding her stomach and shaking her head. Do you really want that? No, and I won't get it anyways. And what makes you so sure? I am a ninja and the Hokage. Nothing gets to me. Minato said it confidently with one of his signature smiles. The kitty streak still hadn't worn off. Fine, but if I don't feel the slightest bit better by tomorrow, you're getting the couch. Fine. If I get the couch, we are going to the doctor and finding out what you got because you certainly don't have a simple stomach bug. Kushina groaned. She hated going to the hospital. 2 days later. Now, have you gained any weight since this sickness started? Asked the doctor. A bit. Kushina stated. Have you been doing things you usually wouldn't? Besides throwing up, sitting on the couch, eating junk and not doing ANS-ranked missions? No, the Kanochi sarcastically replied. The doctor checked Kushina's eyes, ears, mouth, temperature, blood pressure and so on. Everything is normal. I can't see what's wrong with you, she concluded when she wrote the results on her clipboard. She stood there a bit, eliminating the possibilities of what this could possibly be. One very common thing fit all of these symptoms. A grin crept onto her face. How's your sexual life? Have you done things recently? The redhead blushed. Valentine's Day night. So about 3-4 weeks ago? Yes. The doctor wrote something else down. We're going to perform a scan now, so follow me. Minato was sitting in the waiting room for her with a small stack of paperwork he usually had to do as Hokage. Kushina came out when he had gotten 3/4 of the way through it, but when he asked her what the doctor's diagnosis was, she shook her head. They said they didn't know. Must be some sort of new disease. Actually, there was a diagnosis for it, but Kushina didn't voice it because she didn't even believe it herself. A week later, we're over. The Hokage solemnly stated to Fugaku. He was the only one who would go with the blonde to eat ramen. Ever since that time we went to the hospital, she's been avoiding Ma and not talking to me like she used to. He stared into his half-full bowl. Fugaku smiled and clapped him on the back. Just hang in there. Mikoto and I went through the same thing at one point, and look at where we are now. I have a son and a second child on the way, and we still love each other a lot. He finished his ramen, put down some money and left. See you tomorrow. Another week later, the door opened. Hey Hayashi. Where's Sumiko? Kushina looked oddly tired and worn. The Hyuga heir shook his head. She is at the training grounds. Oh. Okay, thanks. Kushina wandered around them and found her friend practicing her taijutsu by herself at training ground 26. Hey Sumiko. She began to run but a major pain stabbed her in her stomach, reducing her to a walk. The dark blue-haired Kunoichi stopped in the middle of a roundhouse kick and punch combo and approached the sick woman. What are you doing here, Kushina? The two hugged. I want to talk to you about something. Kushina looked down and fiddled with her shirt. By the look in her eyes and the tone of her voice, Sumiko knew that what she had to say was serious, and wasn't all that good. You know you can tell me anything and I won't tell, even if my life depends on it. What is it? She looked up. You can't tell anyone at all about this, okay? This secret to me is like what happened to Minato when Sarutobi told him he was going to be the next Hokage. Got it? Yeah, sure. If you I don't know got really sick and went to the doctor to see what you had and then discovered you weren't sick all along, what would you do? Sumiko was confused. What do you mean? Like you weren't sick at all but you had a little person growing inside you? What would you do? The other woman's eyes widened. No way, are you really? She squealed like a crazed fangirl. Oh my god, when did it happen? Was he good? How long did you? She grinned devilishly. Oh, Hayashi better get his act together, screw that, I'll make him. Kushina gave her a look. Do you really want to get pregnant? It really messes up your life, especially the ninja part. The doctor told me that before long, the baby is going to start making its own chakra and that going to screw up my own system, so then I can't do a damn thing as a ninja at all. Then you don't earn money and so then you go broke and stuff, all because you get knocked up. She waved her arms around for emphasis. Sumiko put up her index finger. Number 1, you are married to the fucking Hokage. You will never go broke. Ever. I'm engaged to the Hyuga heir. He will inherit the name of the richest and most powerful clan in Konoha. I certainly won't end up in the streets. 2, Minato loves you and would do nothing to hurt you, nor be disappointed for romping around in bed with him, and as a result, carrying around his future child. Actually, I bet he's itching to get the Namikaze clan going again, and having a family of his own. In my case, Hayashi will need an heir after he passes on, so me and him will definitely have kids at some point. The redhead sighed in defeat. I guess you're right, you and your damn logic, the victor smirked. So, when are you due? October 14th. I'm going into my 6th week now. And when did this sickness start? 3 weeks ago, Kushina said meekly. What? Sumiko screeched. It's been 2 weeks since you found out, and you still haven't told him? You've been avoiding him all this time? She grabbed her friend's wrist. Come on, we are going to tell him, like or not. No. Oh no, please no. You're going to have to tell him at some point, Kushina grimaced. Her friend was right again. 5 minutes later, via Sumiko's back, the door to the Hokage's office burst open. Minato, your wife has something to tell you. Kushina was dragged in by the wrist by a very irritated-looking Sumiko. Her eyes were pleading not to tell, but to no avail, as she was forced to stand right in front of his desk. Minato looked at her questioningly, wondering if this was the reason why she was so withdrawn from him all this time. So? What is this thing you have to tell me? You tell him or I will. Sumiko growled. The Uzumaki began twiddling her thumbs and looked down. Ayano, Minato-kun, I'm what? He raised his eyebrows. I'm pee-pee, holy shit. No way. No. Regnant, he fainted. Sumiko smiled. Well, I think that went well. My work here is done. She left the incapacitated Kanochi to her husband. Minato woke up on a mysterious couch. He slowly sat up and groaned, head buzzing. How long have I been out? He moaned. Finally awake, honey? Kushina sat in the chair nearest him. He jumped. I had a guard bring you back here from when you fainted. Her voice brought back what she had said just before he passed out. Minato turned towards her and asked the question. Are you really pregnant, Kushina-chan? Do you remember your Valentine's Day gift? Yo. That's when it happened. Good going, Sherlock. So you took your own wife, a very strong and able Kanochi, an ANBU nonetheless, out of the ninja ranks. This is your fault, not mine. He put his face in his hands. I'm really screwed over now. I'm not ready. He mumbled. What was that? His wife leaned down, putting her head level with his. I said I'm screwed? I'm not ready to be a father. I was hoping to wait a bit longer. We can't help it now, I guess. Kushina moved onto the couch beside him and put an arm around his shoulders. Of course you're ready. You just don't believe you are. She patted her stomach. Hey, I have it worse. I have to carry this thing around for another 7.5 months, then I have to give a painful birth, and then finally there comes feeding and taking care of the baby. I'm going to go friggin' crazy. She got up. When we learn what it's going to be, I'm going shopping. Whatever the sex, we're going to color the room some sort of orange. 4 months later, Kushina looked at the screen showing the baby inside her. So, the doctor moved the instrument around to the side of her patient's belly. Looks like it's a boy. She put it back in its holder. Kushina sat up with some difficulty, and put down her maternity shirt. Good. Boys are tough. Mentally, she was jumping for joy because this meant she could now go on a shopping spree. Later in the week, she and Sumiko did just that, buying orange boy-oriented things. One odd thing Kushina couldn't help buying was a large orange fox plushie. She came home, arms full, and from the nature of the items, Minato figured he was to have a son. Now only one thing remained to be decided. The name. Don't say that, Jiraiya-sensei. I thought it was great. Minato held up the green book. It was really cool when the character didn't give up, not for 1 second. Jiraiya leaned back and sighed. Yeah, but it didn't sell. Who cares if it didn't sell? It's a good story. Kushina came out of the kitchen. We liked it so much that we decided to name our son after the main character. Are you sure? I was eating some ramen, and it was just a random name that popped into my head. Naruto, it's a beautiful name. She came over and put a hand on Minato's shoulder. October 10th. Minato and Kushina were getting antsy, as Naruto was due in 4 days. Kushina spent the last few days taking walks through the park with a 7-month pregnant Sumiko, and watching children play on the playground, imagining her son among them. Sumiko, she began as they were sitting on a bench, you never told me what you were going to name your daughter. Hayashi and I haven't decided yet, but we're thinking of naming her Hinata. She replied. Towards the sun from the province of light, A/N. I will explain this later. I like it. It has a nice meaning. Kushina stopped in mid-sentence. She shifted around in her seat. I think oh shit my water just broke. The door banged open for the millionth time that day. A medic Nin ran in. Hokage-sama, your wife is in labor. Minato rose from his seat, a twinkle in his eye showing his joy of finally becoming a father. Where is she? He demanded. She just came into the delivery room at the Konoha hospital, sir. The Hokage nodded and body flickered to the hospital entrance. He had placed the seal on the doorway a week before in case something like this would happen. He strode up to the desk, people watching and wondering why on earth the perfectly healthy Hokage was here. Where is the delivery room? He asked the secretary. She pointed down one of the halls. Down there, thanks. He ran down the hall, her name running through his mind. Skidding to a halt in front of the fifth-to-last door on the right, he saw her on the hospital bed, red hair disheveled, face scrunched in pain, white-knuckled hands gripping handfuls of sheets. Minato smiled, thinking about how beautiful she was. Kushina. He whispered, as if hearing him, her head snapped in his direction and he saw in her eyes a mix of pain, anguish, love thanks and a desire not to give up. He rushed to her bedside and took her hand in his. Where's Sumiko? He asked. A chain of words between breaths told him. Home too tired to come. Wishes she could. He looked at the doctor. How long? He asked him. Half an hour. Everything is normal. He pointed towards the machines. Minato looked at the numbers, but what they told him was definitely not normal. Her heart rate was 30 beats above her regular rate. You call that normal? It's way over. It's normal for labor. Just then Kushina arched her back up out of the bed, screaming. Minato could have sworn he heard a bone or two in his hand crack. Come on honey, you can do this. You can do this. I believe in you. Believe it. He gripped her hand even tighter. He felt bad because all he could do was give encouragement. He couldn't do anything else. He couldn't take the pain away, no matter how much he wanted to. Even if it was the slightest amount, he would shoulder it for her. For the first time in his life, Minato was powerless. He sat there, watching her, holding her hand, urging her on for hours until the messenger came, telling of the great catastrophe that would ruin his family from that day forward. Hokage-sama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune is here. Minato's mind went from family mode to Hokage mode in an instant. Where is it? Is it in the village? He demanded. No, but it is a few miles outside the walls. Send all the Anbu, Jounin and Chunin to intercept it. It cannot be stopped by simple fighting means. Also, send for the Sandaime, and tell him to meet me in my office. Go! The man ran out the door. Minato turned back to his sweaty and exhausted wife and looked her in the eye. Kushina, I love you. I have loved you since the day we met at Ichiraka's and I would die for you without a second thought. Though what I am going to do now to defeat the Kyuubi will kill me, it will change your life and our son Naruto's life in more than one way. He gripped her even tighter. This is the last time you will ever see me alive. I am going to use the Reaper Death Seal. Kushina's eyes widened. And Minato, please no. Not Naruto. Seal me instead. Please. He shook his head. No, Kushina. I can't seal you. With power that great, the power of the Kyuubi will need undeveloped chakra coils of the sealed person will die. When Naruto grows up and becomes a shinobi, his chakra coils will form with the influence of the Kyuubi's chakra. He will be able to use its chakra. He will have great power, Kushina. He will grow to be the strongest there has or ever will be. Trust me. He tried to convey all the love he could never express and sadness he was feeling right now through his eyes. I love you and I love our son. Minato leaned over and kissed her with a passion, putting every feeling he had into it. Just as Kushina reached up to touch his face, he broke away. Giving her one last look, he body flickered to his death. Minato, she softly cried. He's almost there, Mrs. Namikaze. Just one more push, said the doctor. Minato, screamed Kushina in agony, arching her back off the bed as she gave one final push. A baby started crying. At the Hokage office, Sarutobi-san. When Naruto is cleaned and Kushina has held him, bring him to the small shrine on top of the Hokage monument. Set up a ring of 9 ceremonial candles around him. Tell the village to view him as a hero. Actually, bring him here first. I want to see my son before I die. Minato, why don't I seal the Kyuubi? You taught me the technique. You could live with Kushina and Naruto. No. This is something that the Hokage must do. I will make this sacrifice for my son. Hi, Minato-sama. Sarutobi walked in to find Kushina holding an infant Naruto. She looked up at him, pleading not to take her son. He understood but shook his head sadly. I'm sorry, Kushina. I wish things could be different too, but this must be done. He slowly took the boy out of his mother's arms and said, I'm sorry. One more time, then ran out of the room. Minato the Sandaime came in holding a bundle of white blankets. He handed it to the Hokage. He removed the sheet covering his son's face. He could only say one thing about what he had helped create. Perfect. Naruto was half asleep and grabbing towards his father's face, but he had a tuft of blonde hair and blue eyes, just like him. Minato wished that he could have at least an hour with his child, but he knew that it wasn't possible. So then he gave the only gift he could right now. Minato kissed his son on the forehead and held him close. Namikaze Naruto, take care of your mother. Love her as I have. That is all I ask of you. He whispered in his ear. Minato kissed Naruto one last time and handed him over to Sarutobi. He turned away to hide the silent tears. Go now, he commanded. The Sandaime bowed and left. You are a great Hokage, Minato-sama. You are better than I ever was. You are the greatest of us four. A cry went up. The Yondaime! The Yondaime Hokage is here! Many of the men and women cheered as Minato came up riding on the top of the head of Gamabunta. He stood there, analyzing the situation. The Kyuubi was at least the size of a 10-story building at the shoulder, and each of its tails was at least the length of a football field. Its fur was a dark red-orange with black tipping each of its tails, ears and paws. Red, bloodthirsty eyes immediately focused on its new opponent. It bared its giant teeth and began to advance. Everyone, fall back! He yelled out. He performed the hand seals, summoning the Shinigami. Reaper Death Seal. The purple claw of the death god reached around Minato and went into the head of the demon fox, grabbing his soul and chakra. The Bijou roared in agony which could be heard for miles around. The claw slowly pulled out a bubbling red mass out of the Kyuubi, and once it was free, it flew back towards the village. It went over the Hokage monument and spiraled down like a cyclone into Naruto's belly. The soul and chakra was pushed in and the claw went in itself before retracting out and flying back to the Shinigami. Once Minato felt the Kyuubi was in its new prison, he did a snake hand sign. Seal. The claw once again came from its owner, plunging into the Hokage and slowly separated his soul from his body, painfully and antagonizingly slow. His eyes rolled back into his head, his body stiffened, and his head snapped back. Goodbye Kushina. Goodbye Naruto. His body crumpled on top of the toad's head, lifeless. Sarutobi sighed. It is done. He took Naruto from the ring of candles. The first thing he noticed that was different about the child was the 3 whisker-like marks that appeared on either cheek. Then he noticed the seal on his belly that glowed bright red. He adjusted the crying baby so it would be easier for him to run to the hospital. He got there, returning the child to Kushina. She appeared more distraught and tired than ever before, holding herself tightly and shivering. When he showed her Naruto, she immediately calmed down a lot, though not entirely, and snatched him up. It's okay darling, mommy's here, mommy's got you. Sure, everything is going to be alright, Kushina whispered to him, tears streaming down her face, cradling him close and brushing his new face marks. Sarutobi stood there, watching the broken and scared mother fawn over her living reminder of her dead husband. Kushina, tomorrow, we'll talk, said the Sandaime before walking out of the room, knowing that tomorrow would be just one bad day after another. The streets were empty. No one, not even a cat or dog, was out. Everyone felt the pain of losing the Yondaime, one woman more than them all. She sat in a hospital bed, holding a baby she had just given birth to not 12 hours ago. It was his son. Her son. Their son. The last living piece of Namikaze Minato. The boy had a blessing and a curse laid upon him by his father the night before. Inside of him, the Kyuubi was sealed, a fact that many of the people knew, but they did not know he was the child of their hero. The woman was startled out of her thoughts when someone knocked on her door. Kushina, it's Sarutobi. If this is a bad time. No, she interjected. Now is fine. He came in holding something behind his back. We need to talk about this situation. He nodded at the boy. What do you plan to do? I don't know, it's just so bad, so messed up. I don't know which way to turn. I don't know what to do. All I know is that I don't want to lose him. You won't lose him, I can promise you that. Right now, you and he are now the village's highest priority. He'll help you through this and give you support, but you have to make the decision. In the meantime, we have arranged for Minato's funeral to be tomorrow at 9 a.m. on top of the Hokage Tower. I hope you can come, said the Sandaime, looking at both mother and child with a firm gaze. Kushina looked down at her son, hair veiling her face. She admired him as he slept, giving him a small smile. We wouldn't miss that. I think you should have this. Sarutobi brought the item out from behind his back. It was a forehead protector, scratched and scarred from numerous battles. She reached for it with her free hand and he gave it. Kushina looked at the ends of it and saw in white thread the Namikaze clan symbol embroidered on one of them, signifying its former owner. Tears rolled down her cheeks and she started to shake her head, thrusting it back at him. I can't. Keep it. It was his, now it is yours. When Naruto grows up and becomes a shinobi, give this to him and have him wear it. Have him continue his father's work. How could he? He won't be able to learn Hyakushin no Jutsu or Rasengan or anything else he created. Actually, in the Hokage library he left a scroll, describing how to do both of those techniques and others he deemed useful, such as the Kage Bunshin. He will learn. Next day, it seemed that the sky was mocking them all. It was clear and sunny, not a cloud to be seen, ironically like his eyes and smiles, she noted. Bright and warm. She sat at the beginning of the first row of shinobi in a wheelchair, wearing a black dress, holding Naruto. Sarutobi stood in front of the casket, also dressed in black. The coffin was covered in red and white linens, the colors of the Hokage. His picture sat in front of it on a table, covered in a white cloth. "Namikaze Minato, you will be remembered in our minds and in our hearts," he said loud enough for all on the top of the tower to hear, facing away from the masses. "We thank you for saving our lives 2 nights ago from the wrath of the Kyuubi. You died honorably. May Kami grant you safe passage to the afterlife." He bowed deeply, showing his respect for the deceased man, the crowd following suit. Kushina closed her eyes, bowing her head. Sarutobi placed a yellow rose in front of Minato's picture, and a medic nin wheeled the widow over to the table. Kushina placed her rose down, but her hand lingered over it, even as she was moved away. Every nin followed suit, placing a rose on the table then returning to their place in the rows of people. After everyone had done so, Sarutobi said, "Now bow your heads and pray for him, pray for our hero." Kushina, discharged from the hospital the next day, went to Sarutobi and asked him to have Kakashi and Rin help her move out of the Hokage mansion and back into the Namikaze estate since they were the only ones of the younger generation who knew of Naruto. As she packed the boxes, she couldn't help but sit down with her favorite picture. It was of her and Minato kissing, his hand on her swollen belly. She remembered it was taken a mere few weeks before Naruto was born, and as she looked at it, the realization that her blonde lover would never be there came crashing down on her. Sumiko visited often and tried to make her friend feel better about this whole ordeal, but it really was not helping. "Kushina," she would say, "come on, snap out of it. Why are you doing this to yourself? He's gone, Sumiko, he's gone. And it's so scary because I have Naruto here. I love him to death, but he's just like his father. He's barely a week old. He looks like him, he acts like him, he reminds me of him so much, hell, and it makes me want to go berserk. I miss him so much. I have no idea what to do with myself now. I'm helpless and hopeless, Sumiko." She buried her face in her hands. "Help me." The pregnant woman put her hands on her friend's shoulders and looked her in the eye. "Girl, you have him. He is the reason you should keep going. You are his only family. If you go, the village might kill him because they all know he has the Kyuubi inside him. If you go, he'll die. That is what you have to do, but it's so much to take on." "How can I?" "You will be able, Kushina. You are one of the toughest women I have ever met or known. You can do this." She came over, day after day, saying the same thing over and over. All those nights, she lied awake in her childhood bed with Naruto on her chest, thinking about what Sumiko had said over and over. She replayed it like a movie, pausing it here, rewinding it there, and then skipping over to that part. She let the words sink in, words that had an undeniable truth. "Without you, he will die last of the Uzumaki and Namikaze. You are his family, he is the reason." Naruto was almost a month old when she arrived at her decision, but it was already too late. It had rooted itself in her. May 1st was approaching, and fast. Kushina was extremely excited. She had dropped her son and Mr. Fox, his inseparable stuffed plushie, off at Auntie Sumiko's house to play with Hinata so she could talk to the reinstated Hokage about being out back into the shinobi ranks. She knocked on his office door. "Can I come in, Sarutobi-san?" "Sure." He knew what she wanted, so he went straight to the point. "Before you can regain your status as an active duty ENBU, 2 things must be done since you were out of service for so long. 1. A thorough medical examination to make sure you are healthy, and 2. A 1-week redemption course in the basic ninja arts to refresh your memory if you have forgotten. After that, the first available mission for you skill level you may take." She bowed. "Thank you." "When would those be?" "The examination could be tomorrow, if you would like. Next week, you could start in the course so you could be back in service by May." "I would like that very much." He nodded. "I will send you a messenger by tonight with the time." 2 days later, Kushina was once again speechless at what the doctor had told her in his report. She read it over and over, her stomach plummeting with each word. "Oh my God, this can't be right. This can't be happening." Sumiko was her refuge ever since that fateful October night. She decided to keep its contents secret until they met next, brooding over them all the while. "Is this true?" said the dark blue-haired Hyuga woman asked after she read the paper. "Are you really dying?" She was sitting on the floor with Hinata between her legs. "What does it say there?" Kushina, sitting on a couch, bounced Naruto up and down on her knee. Sumiko read the lines again. "We regret to inform you, but your blood work results from your exams show that you have contracted a lethal disease. This disease is only seen in people who have lost large amounts of blood in a short period of time, such as slicing a muscle in half in combat, losing a limb, or childbirth. There are treatments for it, though only for the early stage. You have evidently had this for 6.5 months, and so now it is in its 2nd stage of development." She looked up at her friend. "Kushina, I'm sorry," the widow whispered, holding her son close. "I'm sorry I can't be there to watch both of you grow up." A sob escaped her and Sumiko picked up Hinata, putting an arm around her best friend's shoulders. "I am aware of the situation," Sarutobi said, leaning on the rail on top of the Hokage tower, facing the village. "What you do with your son is entirely up to you, in terms of who will take care of him." He turned around to face her. "I don't expect you to have made a decision yet, but do you have an idea of who will take care of him?" "Yes. I will give him to the orphanage." He definitely did not expect that answer. "The orphanage? Why the orphanage? Why not Sumiko? You two are so close." It's because of Hayashi, she solemnly stated. I'm afraid he's going to try to accept him too much, and try to train him to be a Hyuga when he's 4 when he is clearly not one. I know of this, as I have seen it when I visit her. Usually in the courtyard, there might be a young Hyuga around the age of 5 or 6, and I have seen them faint a few times. They were pushed so hard by their teachers. Then they grow up to be cold and harsh like some Hyuga were in the academy classes above me. I don't want that. Plus, he has no living relatives besides me. You have your own kids that you have to take care of, so you are out of the picture. The only thing left is the orphanage. Then he'll have a chance at a normal life, since I won't be there for him. He furrowed his brow. I still don't understand. I want Naruto to grow up in a place that doesn't put heavy expectations on him at such a young age. That, if anything, will destroy him. Besides, he's a Namikaze and an Uzumaki, so it should be a cakewalk for him. Sarutobi turned back around. Well, this is your decision. He will go to the orphanage. Yes. Can I make one more request? What is it? When I go and he goes there, can you make sure his fox goes with him? The Hokage shook his head. The irony in it all, he muttered. She heard him. I know. Also, since he's going there, we should change his last name to your maiden one. Why is Namikaze not good enough? It's for his protection. Minato made that name infamous. When enemy ninja villages learn he bears that name, is the son of the one who made it so and has the QB sealed inside him, they will try to kidnap him and kill him or twist him to their own designs. The ultimate revenge against him, said Sarutobi, knowing that with his children he had become extremely watchful due to his own enemies. Oh. Right. So his name will be changed to Uzumaki Naruto. How will he remember me? Kushina thought while lying awake in bed that night. How could I tell him that I love him? She looked down at the blonde baby sleeping on her chest. She loved the way he was so small, his head fit perfectly under her chin. Bringing a hand up to stroke his short golden hair, she thought about those few times that he and she had together. One month ago, Kushina came in, too tired and lazy to cook anything. She went over to the cabinets, and took out a container of instant miso ramen. She put Naruto in his high chair and proceeded to boil water and pour it in. The boy started to cry when he had smelled the food. Kushina paused in taking the first bite, and put both her chopsticks and meal down on the counter. What's wrong? She baby talked to him. Picking Naruto up, she asked, What's wrong, my little Naruto-kun? She walked around the kitchen, bouncing him. Normally he would stop immediately and start giggling, but tonight Naruto wanted something. When they passed the steaming cup of noodles on the counter, his cries lessened but went right back up when his mom started walking away. My God, you're so much like your father. You want my ramen? Kushina put her son back in his chair, much to his displeasure. Taking out the blender, she poured half her dinner into it and let it run for a minute. When the bowl of watery ramen mush was placed in front of Naruto, his face went from one of sadness to joy. Kushina, grinning, took out his baby spoon and began to feed him. That same grin was plastered on her face now. Then she remembered when Hinata was born. Sumiko came into her living room, holding a bundle of cream-colored blankets. Her breath caught when she saw the huge Christmas tree covered in garland, lights and glittering ornaments. Hayashi, it's beautiful. When did you do this? You were beside me the entire time. He leaned down and kissed his wife. I'm glad you like it. It was a pain rushing around when you were asleep. I barely got any sleep myself. Hayashi looked down at his new daughter. She was worth it though. A sudden thought struck Sumiko. Wait a second, the tree is almost a week late. She pointed at Hinata. She was born 2 days after Christmas. The Hyuga clan head started to blubber. I am well, my. Just then Kushina saved Hayashi, huffing and puffing, towing 3 gargantuan baby bags her friend had, plus her own for Naruto, plus the said boy. What do you want these? She said, now clearly irritated. Sumiko's eyes never left the pale ones of her husband. Put them on the couch. Well, can I hold her, maybe, while you stand up? He nervously asked, afraid that she might clobber him at any moment. She always did that when she was angry or pissed at him. She glared at Hayashi one last time before giving up Hinata, and she stood up out of the wheelchair. God, it feels so good to stretch my legs after sitting in that bed for 4 days. Sumiko took back her daughter and walked over to Kushina, who was holding a 2.5-month-old Naruto. Hey Naruto, meet your new friend. She brought Hinata right up next to him. The boy, curious about this new arrival, made a grabbing motion at her. He managed to get a bit of the blanket she was wrapped in and tugged on it. I think he might want to get closer, Kushina whispered. Later that night, since Naruto was inseparable from the new Hyuga heiress, the Namikaze stayed over. In fact, he was so attached to her that he cried when she went to bed with her mother and father. Kushina smirked. That was an awesome night. Her smile faded. Too bad we won't be able to do it again. A quick glance at the clock told her it was a bit after 2 in the morning. I need to write this all down. It's the only way I'll remember. She picked Naruto up off her chest and put him to the side of her. Pulling off the covers, she swung her legs over the side of the bed and turned around to put her son in the worn hollow of the bed where she had just been. She tucked the covers up to his small chest and turned away to her desk. I have a feeling that I won't get any sleep tonight. She sat down, pulling out pen and paper and began writing. Hey Naruto, Sumiko, could you give this to Naruto when he becomes a genin? Kushina handed her friend a large, yellow, stuffed envelope. What is it? She asked, taking it into her hands. What did you put in here? It's so heavy. Just give it to him when he becomes one. He'll know what to do. The hot July night was oddly silent, although Kushina hadn't noticed. She was simply too tired to do anything. Lately, she noticed that her strength was slowly diminishing. She blamed that fucking disease, as she normally called it. Lying on her couch in a tank top shirt and shorts, she napped, forearm thrown across her face. Naruto woke up and began to cry again. His mother stirred and grumbled something along the lines of stop and weeks ago. Kushina got up and groggily made her way to the kitchen to get him his midnight snack, which was what he usually wanted. She got out the carton of baby formula and measured the normal amount. Just as she was filling up the tea kettle though, something felt like it was crawling up her throat, burning everything it touched. Kushina fell to her knees, coughing up a large glob of tissue and blood. Her eyes widened, recognizing what was happening to her. She crawled over to the corner of the kitchen where the phone was, blood slowly issuing from the sides of her mouth. Hoisting herself up with her arms so she could reach the lifeline, she punched the numbers as fast as she could. Ring! I got it, honey. Hayashi grumbled, rolling out of bed. He sleepily made his way down to the living room. He picked it up and put it to his ear. Hello? He said groggily. Hayashi Kushina's voice came from the other end. Her voice was wheezy and weak. She coughed and hacked. Get both your asses down here as well as Sarutobi's. The line went dead. All the former drowsiness was now gone from Hayashi's head. Kushina! He yelled into the phone. Kushina! He slammed the phone on the receiver, eyes shifting from side to side as he realized what was going on. Quickly he picked it up again and dialed the number of the Hokage. Come on, he thought, tapping his foot impatiently. Sumiko came down holding Hinata. What's all the yelling for, Hayashi-kun? It's Kushina, he said. I think she's the Sarutobi? Oh, thank God I can't explain now, but yes, it's Kushina. I don't know. She just told me to tell you to get us and Sumiko over to her house ASAP. Just go. He slammed it down again and grabbed his wife's hand. Come on, we're taking a midnight trip. They better get here soon. As if on cue, the front door slammed open. Kushina! Came Sarutobi's deep voice. Kushina, where are you? Unable to talk louder than a whisper in her current condition, she groaned as if in pain. They heard her and came running but stopped dead in their tracks at the doorway. Sumiko gasped. What the hell happened here? Said Hayashi. Sarutobi's eyes widened in horror and wonder. Kushina was sitting on the floor, leaning on some cabinets, slumped over. A phone with a bloody handle hung over the edge of the counter next to her. On the other side of the kitchen, there was a spilled container of baby formula mingling with a small pool of blood. That blood continued to where Kushina was, and it also covered her tank top and shorts, coming from the corners of her mouth. Hayashi ran to her side. I'm no medical expert, but she's lost a hell of a lot of blood. Is there a medic team coming? He asked the Hokage. He nodded. I sent for one just before I left. He turned to Kushina. Can you speak? A bit, she croaked out. Then another coughing fit attacked her, and the lines of blood from her mouth were renewed. Don't try to save me, guys. I'm past that point. Sumiko came over, holding both Naruto and Hinata. Kushina! She cried, tear rolling down her face. Kushina! Despite the situation, the bleeding woman gave a small smile. So this is how it ends. Minato dies a hero while I die quietly. She made a motion towards her son. Come here, you little rascal. Sumiko gave him up, a pained look on her face while she watched her best friend. The dying mother held Naruto close to her, his head resting on her shoulder. What did mommy always tell you? Straighten up, little soldier. Don't cry when I'm gone. Believe in yourself, cause remember that I love you. She bent her head and brushed her lips on his sun-kissed hair, and it remained there until it limply fell to the side, like it had lost the will to live. Many years later, Tsunade Bachan. I want a real mission so I can get better than Sasuke while he's still in the hospital, not this D-rank stuff, said Naruto as he was right up in her face, yelling his head off. The Hokage put a hand on his forehead and using her insane strength, pushed him across the room into the opposite wall. Naruto, you will do the mission you are assigned. No arguing, said Tsunade, slightly ticked off that he called her an old hag. He got up from the flop and rubbed his head. I forgot how much she can hurt. Just wait until I take your place, then we'll see if you can get a drink anywhere in Fire Country. Dragging his feet, he went back up to the assignment desk. Alright, just give me the mission details. Tsunade tossed the genin a small scroll. You will go to the Hyuga clan complex and help them with constructing their bathhouse after it was destroyed in the Sound invasion. You will work with them until it is finished. When does it start? Naruto grumbled, feeling that Tsunade was doing this to him deliberately for his own protection. Tomorrow, said Tsunade, trying to ignore the hurt she saw in his eyes at always doing deranked missions. Hinata fell backwards onto her bed and sighed. Another long day. Today, she and the rest of Team 8 had their first mission since she had fully recovered from her Chunin exam match with her unforgiving cousin, Niji, and Tsunade the Sannin had been made the Godame. He had almost killed her then, the fight had been so intense. Her thoughts brought her back to when she was well enough to go back home from the hospital. The first thing she did was go and pray at the Hyuga shrine of her ancestors, thanking them and most prominently her mother for pulling her through her toughest trial by far. Mom, Hinata thought, I miss you. She got up from her bed and opened her closet. Reaching up to the top shelf, she took a small shoebox out, but another, thinner, brown box fell down. She didn't know why she kept it because she didn't even know what was in it. It was just one of those mysterious boxes one would usually keep in their attic. Sitting down on the hardwood floor, Hinata opened the shoebox to reveal some photos, a necklace and a yellow ribbon. She took out her favorite photo, one of her mother and her father when she was 1.5 years old. They were laughing at her father, who was his daughter's horse. He had a sheepish look on his face, embarrassed that he, the mighty Hyuga clan head, was reduced to a mere child's play slave. That was before she died. She thought out loud. Before who died? A familiar deep voice came from the other side of her bedroom door. Hinata jumped in surprise and shoved the box and its contents under her bed. And no one out to San. Her father opened the door, surveying her up and down. She was twiddling her fingers and looking at her feet as always, nervous about her father. Ever since his wife and her mother had died, Hayashi didn't like it when she came up in any conversation. Anyways, we have hired a ninja to help with construction on the bathhouse tomorrow. You are to serve him or her lunch and attend to their every need, said Hayashi, his eyes as cold as ice. Hayao-san. He began to leave, but paused at the door. Dinner is in 10 minutes. Without another notion, he left. Hinata relaxed, sat down on her bed and sighed. Why do I always get like that? She put her box of memories away, afraid that her father might almost catch her again. When it was safely stowed back in its hiding place, her attention turned to the thin brown box. It sparked her curiosity, wondering just why she kept it if it had no real use. She cut the tape with a kunai and shook it. A large yellow envelope and a folded piece of paper fell out. Ignoring the paper, she looked at the envelope. 2 names, one very familiar and one she had never heard before, were written on it. It read, "To my Naruto-kun, from Kushina." Hinata gasped, face going completely red at the thought of her crush and even more at the thought of another girl ruining her chances. She pushed both the thought and envelope away and snatched up the folded paper. This one was for her. This was a letter. Dear Hinata-chan, if you are reading this, then I have passed away. Hi. I'm the genin you guys hired to help you build your bathhouse. Naruto stood on the doorstep of the Hyugas, dressed in his orange pants, black shirt, forehead protector tied on his head, and the Shodame's necklace around his neck. Oh yes. Come in. The branch family member stood aside and the boy walked in. Follow me, he said. They went down what seemed an endless maze of white-walled, dark wood-floored corridors. Once, Naruto heard an eat from a passing hallway, but when he looked, no one was there. After a few minutes of seemingly endless wandering, they came to a door that led to the outside. To say that the area which was formerly gardens would be an understatement, and the size of the baths that were going to be built were nothing short of that. There was a mix of branch members, mostly teens and adults that were already working. Even Niji was there. Naruto turned to his guide. So where do I begin? Hinata quickly retreated behind the corner. Naruto-kun? She whispered to herself, blushing furiously. Naruto-kun is the ninja? Oh my god, I'm going to have to face him. What if he talks to me? What do I say? As similar thoughts flew through her head, something dawned on her. I could give him it today. The more she considered it, the more Hinata agreed with herself. She set off for the build site. Right, so we have to dig out the pools and places for the pipelines before we even start building? Naruto asked with a dreading tone. Yes. What's the point of having a bathhouse if you can't get water to it, much less use it? Replied the guide. I'm getting more work than I was told, grumbled the boy. He hefted his shovel up onto his shoulder. Where do I start digging? Join the others. They'll tell you. Naruto wandered over to Niji. Even if the guy was still a bit of an ass, he felt more comfortable talking to someone he knew rather than complete strangers. Hey, Niji. The prodigy dumped his shovelful of dirt and looked up, sweat gathered on his brow. Where do I dig? Ah, so you're the ninja we hired. A vein popped on Naruto's forehead. Obviously, Niji smirked. His hand made a wide sweeping motion. You see all those small white signs stuck in the ground? Start digging between them, thanks. He walked away, muttering something along the lines of fight and hasn't changed. Beginning the backbreaking work, he didn't stop until the sun was high in the sky, beating down relentlessly on all who were under it. Tired, thirsty and hungry, Naruto sat on the porch, took off his forehead protector, and wiped his completely drenched brow. He stood up and went over to the Hyuga in charge. Hey! He tugged on the man's sleeve until he got his attention. I'm going to Ichiraku Ramen for lunch, okay? No, stay here. My daughter, Hinata, will attend you. Naruto wasn't expecting this. Hinata? From teammate? He raised his eyebrows. Okay then. Hayashi went over and stood in front of a sliding door. Hinata, go get our guest his lunch. A meek hi was heard from the other side, followed by the sound of someone running. A minute later, the door opened and Hinata, dressed in her navy blue pants and black shirt, came out with a platter of food. She wordlessly passed her father, head downcast to avoid the gaze of both people watching her. To break this awkward silence, Naruto scratched the back of his head and grinned. Well, Hyuga-san, me and Hinata will just be down there. He jabbed a thumb over his shoulder to where he's sitting before. Hayashi just turned back to his work and the two young teenagers walked down the porch in silence. The heiress was going crazy. Naruto-kun is so close. And he's so sexy looking all sweaty. She mentally kicked her perverted side of her mind to keep that and other thoughts out of her head. Just keep walking, just keep walking. She was so engrossed in her thoughts that she didn't notice when Naruto said here is fine. And he sat down. She just kept on walking. Hinata? Where are you going? He asked. He saying her name broke her reverie. Oh, I'm sorry. Hinata set the tray on his left and quickly bowed. If there's anything you need Naruto-kun, I'll be in the previous room. She began to walk away, blushing furiously. Naruto looked at her oddly. I never noticed it, but it's kind of cute when she blushes. Hinata, wait. She froze and slowly turned around. Why yes? He gave her a small smile. Stay and have lunch. It'd be great to talk to someone I actually know. Hinata's face turned a shade of red that would shame an apple. Oh okay. She sat down on his right. Naruto turned away and grabbed 2 rice balls off the tray. Is your dad always that cold to you? He took a big bite out of one, chewing it thoughtfully. The girl relaxed a bit, and her face lost some of its color, although still bright pink. He wasn't always like that. When my mother died giving birth to my sister, he started to become what he is now. I miss the old one, but he won't come back. She twiddled her thumbs. That's for sure. Naruto swallowed his food and looked down at the ground. You don't know how lucky you are. I never even had a chance to know my parents. I don't even know who the hell they are. When I asked the people at the orphanage, they just gave me a dirty look and turned away. They sat there in silence before Hinata spoke up. And Naruto-kun, stay here please. She got up and left, and Naruto resumed eating his lunch. Hinata came back with a large yellow envelope, sat down and handed it to the blonde boy. What's this? He asked and read who it was to. Naruto turned to the girl, bewildered. Who's Kushina? One of your cousins? Hinata shook her head. No. Kushina is your mother, Naruto-kun. Another bite stopped halfway to his mouth. You're joking. And no. I found that in my sea closet last night. Your mother gave that to mine before she died, as far as I know. He turned all the way towards her, giving her his full attention. And how do you know this? Hinata pulled her knees to her chest. My mom told me that in a letter. Abandoning his lunch, Naruto began to open it but the girl stopped him. Don't open it here, she hissed, placing a hand on his. Open it back at your house where no one can see. There might be some really important information in it. Then, she snapped back to herself, realizing what she had done. She quickly retreated her hand back and her blushing level went back up to max. Too embarrassed to say another word, Hinata stood up and ran, and left Naruto staring at the yellow package in disbelief. Yuri-san, I have some important information that I have heard in the marketplace today. The Uzumaki kneeled in front of the elder. What is it? He was currently the clan head, as he was the oldest Uzumaki, but the 2 youngest elders at the time of the attack were there to keep things going when he died. Plus, there was the youngest in front of him now, reporting the future of the clan. There have been rumors of a boy at the Chunin exams who defeated a Hyuga prodigy and later, a Jinchuriki by the name of Sabaku no Gara when Suna invaded his hometown of Konoha. From what people have told me, he was the dead last dropout in everything. Konoha? Isn't that where Kushina was sent? Yes. What's more is this boy's name. Muri's brow furrowed. He is Uzumaki? The said boy's grandmother smiled. Uzumaki Naruto, hundreds of miles away, the very same boy, tired and exhausted, closed the door to his apartment, a thick yellow envelope in his hands. He sighed, and shook his head. My God, what an eventful day. I gotta ask Hinata about this thing tomorrow, thought Naruto ignoring his growling stomach. He went over and sat on the floor next to his bed. He put the package on the floor in front of him and stared at it, as if he couldn't decide whether to open it or not. He made the former choice and undid the string at one end and shook it. An avalanche of photos came out, followed by a thick wad of folded paper and oddly, 2 forehead protectors. He picked up one of the pictures and studied it, trying to imagine what was happening at the time it was taken. It was of a woman with very long red hair, holding a crying blonde baby, and she was kissing his cheek. The infant had 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek and had a brand new stuffed fox in his hand. Naruto turned around and looked on top of his bed. That same animal, though patched in many places now, was on it, lovingly placed on his pillow. "Heh, that must be me," he said out loud. "So that must be Mom." The word was so alien to him. Sure, he had heard other kids use it, but to actually say it and know who he was talking about was entirely different. Never in his 13 years of life had he done that once. His parents always were a mystery to him, who they were, what they did, and why they left him. Looking at other photos, Naruto had to admit his mother was a beautiful woman, but there were others too that had another woman and her child in it. This one had dark blue hair that went just past her shoulders, and the baby's hair was the same color. Shaking his head, he picked the fat wad of paper and unfolded it. It was addressed to him in his mother's handwriting. He read it, eyes gathering tears of happiness, laughter and sadness with each sentence. "Hey Naruto-kun, it's me, your mother Kushina. I know, this must be hard for you to read, but I am dying and your father can't take care of you either because he has passed on. Both of us didn't want this to happen. We wanted to have you grow up knowing us, but this is the only option for even one of us to talk to you. If we lived, your dad would teach you all these cool jutsus, and maybe, when you got older, his signature S-rank jutsu, and I would train you in taijutsu every day. We'd make sure you, literally, turned out to be the greatest shinobi in history just like your father. If only that damn QB came on another night, this wouldn't be so. Maybe your dad would be here to take care of you, but I wouldn't. I'll explain what I mean by that later. Hopefully, if the village hasn't treated you too badly because of the damn fox sealed inside you, how could I not know this? I'm your mother, for crying out loud. You've turned out to be an awesome shinobi. Did you come out on top, or did an Uchiha boy by the name of Sasuke do that? Personally, I never cared for them. To me, they were a bunch of arrogant bastards who thought they were better than everyone else, and who needed to get the stick out that was stuck up all their asses. That boy's father, Fugaku, and your father were really good friends since he was head of the Uchiha police, despite the stick factor. Hey, talking about clans and such, I want to tell you a bit about mine. You see, I wasn't born in Konoha. I was born in the Whirlpool country, into the Uzumaki clan. We had the Kula sword skills, I remember. If you search through the gazillion photos there, you might find the old one of my mother, father and I. It's interesting how all the very important guys in my life, including you, your dad and my father, had blonde hair and blue eyes. Anyways, I came to this village when I was 4. My clan sent me here because of a man called Pain. I think if you looked where the site of my clan's house is or was, you wouldn't find a thing. I think it was because the Pain guy was so powerful that my clan felt threatened enough to send me here. Our swords and style were legendary, rumored to invincible. Of course, that's not the case, because everyone has a weakness of some sort. When I left, there were quite a lot of students and masters at our clan complex. Very few were foreign, as we rarely accepted them to train in our secret art, but most students were branch members of the clan. They had to have all died, unfortunately, if that mysterious guy was so powerful and threatening. I think they sent me because I was of the main line. Hey, don't get cocky and tell all your friends that. That's going to unfocus you from your dreams, whatever they are, if anything. After I moved here, Sarutobi-san showed me around the village. Oddly enough, later that day, too, 3 amazing things happened. The first was that I had ramen. I never had the stuff before, so at the time it had felt like I had experienced something from heaven. The second was that I met your father. He was heaven. He was everything a girl could ever want and more. We were a bunch of ignorant kids at the time, and didn't realize we loved each other the second we laid eyes on each other. I know it sounds corny, but there was something about him I saw in him that day. He told me the same thing when we're teenagers dating, and ready to go the whole 9 yards in bed. Ha, sorry, it's my secret perverted side kicking in. Damn you, Erojiraya-sensei. Anyways, I'll tell you that story later. The third thing on that first day in Konoha was when your blonde genius of a father took me on top of the Hokage monument, and showed me the setting sun. I have never seen a landscape so amazing as that. What was really weird was the next day when I discovered his family was going to be my foster family, or in other words, the family who adopted me. That led to many awkward moments between us, including when he moved in with me 6 months after I got my own apartment, when we began to realize we had feelings for each other. Finally, at the Sakura Festival, we got together as boyfriend and girlfriend when I was 17, and everything fell into place after that. We got married years later, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Then I got pregnant with you. Those were probably the best 9 months I had ever lived. Unfortunately, that also meant I had to be taken out of the shinobi ranks as an ANBU, and I was so close too. I could feel that promotion to captain. God damn it. I mean, Kami, damn it. After your birth and the QB was sealed inside you, I took care of you. Though, the worst part was that you looked and acted so much like your father. It was creepy, because the QB claimed his life and it was sealed in you, and you are your father's son. It was a weird triangle of hate and love. Anyways, I cried for many painful days over that, but my ever-trusty childhood friend Sumiko snapped me out of it with her words, persuading me to keep going. She herself was pregnant with her first child, a girl who would grow up to be a noble Hyuga. I hope both of them are doing well now. Now this is the story of what killed me, why I'm not here now. Evidently, when I gave birth to you, I got some sort of lethal disease from losing so much blood. Ouchie. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed when it had already taken root in my body. There were cures for it, but only when it was still free-roaming in me. This is why I'm writing to you now, so I can talk to you, so you can know me and my life story, and let you know that I love you. I love you and never forget that. I love you, my son, and no one can take that away, even if I am dead and am watching you from heaven. Actually, you are the last living descendant of two clans, the Namikaze, your father's, and mine, the Uzumaki. Weird, huh? It must be fate. Not. I hate the idea of fate. Actually, I believe there's no such thing as that, only dreams. Dreams will guide you. Before I forget, I want to tell you about your father. I won't tell you exactly who he is, because you might not be mature enough, but I have mentioned what he has done, what he looks like, etc., even his clan's name, so you might be able to figure him out. As I said, he was what most girls could only dream of. He was kind and considerate, knowing just how push your buttons or makes you feel better when you felt like crap. He didn't care what people thought of him, as long as it made him improve, feel good or make him better. Guys like him only come by once or twice in a lifetime. Others are just lazy, shy assholes, or just want to get in a girl's pants. I noticed Ero-sensei will do anything to get in Tsunade's. Plus, he was popular, and had a bit of a bad boy attitude, but not to the extent I had when I was in the ninja academy. I was the prankster. I just loved the look on people's faces when they opened up one of my giant paint bombs. He was also considered to be one of the greatest shinobis in world history. Why? Among the foreign villages, he was known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha. He created so many justice, even a middle-level chunin wouldn't know that same amount himself. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the best ninja ever. I'm probably biased though, probably because he was my husband. Wow, I just looked back at you. Right now, as I'm writing this, it is around 3 in the morning and you are behind me, sleeping soundly in my bed. I couldn't sleep tonight after I had a conversation today with Sarutobi-san about what would happen to you when I died. You're just so innocent and peaceful looking right now. It's kinda scary that you will grow up to be a killer. And I mean the most badass shinobi ever. Remember, I love you and don't forget that. Ever, your mom, Kushina. P.S. The forehead protectors are mine and your father's. His has the Namikaze clan symbol on one end. Mine has the spiral, Uzumaki clan symbol. Tears were flowing freely down the boy's face as he lowered the paper onto his lap. This was all too much for him. His emotions were running wild. Naruto picked up the hitayatesh of his mother and father and looked at the ends. There they were on both, the spiral on one and a closed eye on another. He stood, eyes shut tight, and clenched his hands around them so much that the metal almost cut into his palms. Mom dad, he stuttered, sitting on the bed and looking at the 2 leaves engraved on the scratched metal. Naruto grabbed his stuffed fox and clutched him to his chest, the forehead protectors in his hands. He cried into its dirty orange fur, blubbering jumbled words. The boy softly fell sideways, head landing on its pillow, and he curled up into a ball, sobbing silently into the night. She was so nervous, sitting next to him. He had invited her to eat with him again, and now he was talking to her, asking her questions. She never believed he would be like this. Oh, Hinata. Naruto waved a hand in front of her face. Sorry. She shook her head. I was just thinking about your question. Oh, I don't know. I can't think of anybody that looks like that. The Hyuga lied. She perfectly well knew who it was, because it was her and her mother. He looked downcast. Oh. I thought you might have known since your hair is a similar color. You know what I'll do? I'll bring it tomorrow when we finish building. Okay. Naruto turned his eyes to the passing clouds. After a few seconds he said, What would you do, Hinata, if you just discovered who one of your parents was after they remained hidden all your life? What would you say? She spoke after a moment's silence. I don't know. I've always had my family here, no matter how mean it was to me. Why, what are you feeling now? He picked a stick up from the ground and rolled it between his palms. That's the point. I don't know what to feel. I'm confused. I want to feel happy, but I think I'm in shock. But then again I feel sad because of what my mother had written. She wrote that I caused her a lot of pain after I was born because I was so much like my dad. My mom didn't tell me who he was either. She told me he was a great ninja and man, as she put it, everything a girl could ever want. I wish I could be like him. The words left her mouth before she could catch them. And Naruto-kun, you already are. Hinata bit her lip and turned away, embarrassed she had revealed so much. Only her mental fortitude kept her from running away this time. Naruto turned to her. You really think so? All I ever saw is screw up and cause true. It's because you fight for those you love, even if they don't return it. Why you beat down that Gaara kid because you were fighting to protect Sasuke-san and Sakura-san, your friends. But how am I everything a girl could want? That's the hardest part. Sakura-chan keeps on turning me down. She's still obsessed with that bastard. Hinata shut her eyes and shook her head. They don't see you like I do. They don't see how amazing you really are. Bachan, here is the mission report. Naruto put a paper on the Hokage's desk and turned to leave. He waved his hand. See you tomorrow, Naruto. Wait. Tsunade's voice had a serious and commanding tone to it. I have received some very serious information concerning you. He stopped in his tracks and sighed. Great, what did I do now? It's not what you have done, but of what you could do. He immediately perked up and turned around upon hearing that. Do I finally get another C or even B-ranked mission? Huh. 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 He started jumping up and down. Tsunade shook her head. No, Naruto. Much more serious than that. She pointed to the chair in front of her desk. Sit. This may take a while to explain. The boy obediently did as he was told, eager to know what was more important than a higher-ranked mission. Tsunade began. Last night, I received a messenger hawk from a clan that is in the former Whirlpool country. Yeah, I know. My mother's clan, the Uzumakis. He said matter-of-factly. How dash. The day after you assigned me the building mission, the one I just completed, Hinata gave me a letter from my mom. I don't know how she got it, but it told me a lot of things, including that. Can I read it later? The Hokage asked. Naruto glared. No. It's really private and I don't want anyone seeing it, at least, not now. Can you get on with the other thing about my mom's clan? Tsunade rubbed her temples and looked up, surprised by this new bit of information. Right. She opened her desk and took out a small scroll. Anyways, I received this last night from a messenger hawk. This is the decoded message, since it was in the code we used when I was a jounin. What I do not understand is that about 32 years ago, the clan was reportedly destroyed by an unknown nin. The only known survivor was your mother, and even that fact is kept secret. This may be a trap, but I highly doubt it because of what it says. Here, read it. She tossed it to him. They are inviting both you and your mother to come and train you for 5 years in the Kenbudo. Do you know what that is? The boy though about the word's meaning. Some sword style? Not just any. Back when I was young, the Uzumakis were a feared clan because their swordsmanship was so skilled and advanced. It was said that if one became a master of this style, the way of the dancing sword, then they would become practically invincible. Now, since your mother has passed on, I would like you to choose someone to take with you on this trip, preferably a female friend of yours since they are expecting 2 people, and one of them a girl. Make your decision soon because the clan's correspondent will be at the gates on Friday, so that's 3 days from now. They will be there at 9 a.m. to keep themselves from being tracked. Tell not a soul about this unless you plan on asking them to come with you. You're dismissed, but get back to me by Thursday with who you are bringing, if you are bringing anybody. Naruto bounded out of the office, knowing already who he was going to ask. He found her as always, next to Sasuke's bed. As far as he could tell, she was always at his bedside. Sasuke still hadn't awakened from his coma after being put into one by his much-hated older brother, Itachi. Sakura-chan. The boy yelled when he opened the hospital door. Shh! Naruto, could you be any louder? She turned and whispered. You don't want to disturb Sasuke-kun, do you? His voice dropped to the same level as hers. Sorry. I wanted to know if you would like to go on a 5-year training trip with me. Weed, are you crazy? Sakura screeched, abandoning her former rule. Why would I want to do that? And especially you of all people. Naruto looked down at his feet. Oh well, I thought you might have wanted to because we'd be training with his face met the floor before he could finish. With who? She said, standing over him. That pervert of a sensei you had for a while there? No. My answer is no. I won't leave Sasuke-kun, unlike you Naruto, Sakura yelled down at him. She sat back down and turned back to the sleeping Uchiha prodigy she hoped to have someday. Naruto dragged himself up. SS sore, whatever. I don't want to hear it, you Team 7 traitor. She waved him off, not seeing Naruto scowling behind her. That's it. He growled. You know what, Sakura? If you want Sasuke Team so much, then you can have him and his bastard children if he lets you. Oh, and for your information, I'm not the traitor of Team 7, it's you. When you finally realize that, then maybe you'll stop being a total bitch to me. I give you everything I have, and what do you give me? Not a single credit for what I have done. I saved both you and your precious god's asses and lives when I defeated that Gaara. You could have at least thanked me for that, yelled Naruto, shocking Sakura as he left the room, slamming the door behind him, not caring anymore about the pink-haired excuse of a Kunoichi. He glumly went out the hospital main door, feeling utterly defeated that Sakura turned him down despite the fact he had let some of the frustration off his chest. He thought about how she had said what she said. He shoved his hands in his pockets as he exited the hospital and looked at his feet. She said she won't leave Sasuke. Man, she's so deeply into him that now that I think about, I never had a chance. Oh well, I suppose when Sasuke treats her like dirt she'll understand it's how I feel when she did it to me. Naruto thought as he stared blankly ahead. He made his way through the thin crowd of villagers, letting his feet take him wherever they pleased. Eventually, they led him to a Chiraku ramen where he sat down and had a bowl of ramen to clear his head. Hey Naruto-kun, you look like something's on your mind. Tucci stood behind the counter drying a bowl. Yeah. The girl I really liked and who also happens to be my teammate just turned me down. It was something really important to me too, and she didn't even let me finish explaining. The old man chuckled. The old game of love. Fortunately I won and was rewarded for a beautiful wife and daughter. Naruto stared at his reflection in his bowl. Not helping, Tucci shook his head. Naruto, how long have you been going after this girl? About 2 or 3 years. That's 2 or 3 years too long. You should have started looking elsewhere ages ago. There's plenty of other fish in the sea that could appreciate you, the boy snorted. Yeah, right. You know what happened all those years ago on my birthday, on October 10th? They would think I'm you know that. The man shook his head again. Naruto, I know that fact about you, and do I chase you away from my ramen stand? No. I know that you are Naruto and not something else. Besides, when I first saw you, I thought I had déjà vu of this other blonde kid who looked exactly like you that I served in the early days of this business. My first impression was that you were just an ordinary boy that loved ramen, but then one of my customers told me you were the special child. Then I realized how wrong they were of judging you. The same goes with that girl you like, whoever she is. She doesn't see how good you really are, and when she does, it will be too late. Naruto looked at him questioningly. Too late for what? Hopefully by that time you will have given up on her, and you'll be with someone who deserves and really appreciates a guy like you more. Just look around and see who has been nice to you all this time. I'm sure that there's at least one girl out there right now that does, even if she doesn't show it. Naruto finished his ramen, stood up and took out some ryu to pay for his bowl. Thanks, Tucci-san. I needed that. He waved his hand and walked out from under the flap. See ya. The man collected his money. Bye, Naruto-kun. The sun had gone down a great deal during their man-to-man talk. The boy walked eastward into the nicer part of town where there were less people by far. As he passed an old clan complex, something caught his eye. He stopped and looked at it, then at the wall. On it, there was a symbol that looked almost exactly like the one sewn on his father's Hittite. Instantly, Naruto's mind clicked, making the connection, but the body began to run away, a single name running through his mind. Hinata! TMP 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 TMP. Pant. Hey, watch it, kid! Look where you're running! What do you think you're doing? Hinata, gotta find her. Here. Naruto skidded to a stop in front of the doors to the massive Hyuga house. He went up and banged on the doorframe as hard as he could until a man he recognized as the girl's father opened it. Hinata! Where's Hinata? Said Naruto excitedly, trying to look around the man real quick before finally looking at Hayashi when it proved useless. Hayashi scowled. What do you want with my daughter? He said coldly. The boy gulped a lungful of air. I need to ask her something really important, and I need to know where she is. What do you want to ask her? Naruto took another deep breath, trying to catch it. Tsunade Bachan assigned me to take a girl on a 5-year trip, and I want to ask your daughter if she can come with me. 5 years? That's a very long time. Where would you be going? To the Uzumakis in what used to be the Whirlpool country. They train us in their swords and stuff and make us strong. Hayashi could have sworn he had heard that wrong. What? Slow down, boy, you're talking too fast. I couldn't understand you. Naruto took one last deep breath. Uzumaki clan. Whirlpool country. 5 years. Sword training. It wasn't that Hayashi didn't trust the boy. He was his deceased best friend's son after all. It was the fact that Kushina had said her clan was destroyed for all those years. Had she lied to them all? But I thought the Uzumakis were wiped out. It was. I dunno, but somehow it survived. So where is she? Can she come? Said the man, still puzzled by this piece of information. Training ground 9. He closed the door, not even answering the second question. Naruto wasn't bothered at all by this. He ran as fast as he could to the woods that were that area. Bark! 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 Dynamic marking! A shot of warm yellow liquid landed on the blonde's head, drenching his hair. Ahaha! Good shot, Akamaru. Naruto wasn't amused at all. Ag. Kiba, keep your stupid dog under control. He shook his head vigorously, trying to get the piss out of it. The said boy landed in front of him, while the ninja dog sat on a branch in the trees above them. What's he doing wrong? We're just training. Naruto pointed to his hair. He just peed on me. Never mind, where's Hinata? Oh, her? She's over there. Shino's helping her train her Byakugan. He pointed behind him to a small clearing. Come on. The boy followed his friend through the trees, glaring at the small dog that was jumping through the branches above. They came into the clearing. Shino was nowhere to be found, as he too was hidden among the trees and bushes, but Hinata was in the center. She had her bloodline activated, in her clan's taijutsu stance, breathing heavily and sweating a bit. She saw Naruto and quickly deactivated her Byakugan. Naruto-kun! What are you doing here? She said as Akamaru jumped into her arms. 3 days of conversation had lifted a bit of the awkwardness between her and her crush, but it was still there, looming over her. She doubted it would ever go away, no matter how much they talked. What happened to your hair? It's all wet. He crossed his arms and huffed. Akamaru peed on me, she gasped. Akamaru. She held the little dog up to her face so they were nose to nose. You bad boy. You know you only do that in combat. Hinata said in a babying voice. Akamaru only barked in response and stared, licking the girl's face, tail wagging a mile a minute. she giggled, turning her head from side to try to avoid the pink tongue. When he licked her right behind her jawline, the little giggles turned into a full laugh, causing her to fall to the ground. Hinata had let go of the dog and attempted to protect her smiling face with her hands from the friendly onslaught, but without avail. Naruto watched in amazement at the scene in front of him. This was the first time he had ever seen Hinata smile, and it showed a different side he had never seen before. Here he saw a girl who was never nervous and shy, but happy. It was quite contagious too, as the corners of his mouth began to lift into one. She has a really nice laugh too. He shook his head for a brief second. Where had those thoughts come from? Akamaru, come on. Not now. Kiba ordered. The dog stopped licking the girl, looked at his master, back at Hinata, licked her one last time and bounded over into the Izunuka's jacket. Kiba came over and helped his friend up as she wiped her still joyous face of dog slobber with her sleeve. Naruto has something he wants to ask you, right? He looked back at the blonde. Yeah, but can I ask you in private, Hinata-chan? She stopped, and her smile faded into one of masked confusion. Hinata-chan? When did that come from? Since when did he ever call her Hinata-chan? Sure, she said hesitantly, unsure of what to make of this new discovery. She followed him into the woods until they were a good distance from the clearing and away from prying ears. Hinata-chan, Naruto started, leaning back against the tree. I wanted to know if you wanted to come with me on a 5-year training trip with me. Her eyes widened. Ayano, what? He sighed. Were all Hyugas this deaf? Do you want to go on a 5-year training trip with me? We'd be trained by the Uzumaki in their sword style. Her face went red and she began to sweat. FF5 years? Thud. Hinata? Hinata-chan. Was all she heard before she blacked out. A few hours later, splash. Ah! She squeaked, sitting up quickly. She looked around, but her vision was blurry. What happened to me? Where am I? You fainted. A voice said nearby. And Naruto Keikuin? Yeah. Kiba and Shino went home. I told them I'd take care of you until you woke up, said Naruto, not mentioning he got back at the Akamaru for the peeing incident. He made him eat some bad plant food. When Kiba wasn't looking, that would give the dog diarrhea for the next 3 days. He was crouched next to her, and they were by the stream in the woods. We'd better get going, he said, looking at the sky. The sun's about to set. He grabbed Hinata's hand and helped her up. They started walking out of the training grounds with an awkward silence between them. Ano, Hinata-chan, what? She had stopped walking as soon as he spoke and stood there with her head bowed. He noticed, turned around and went back to her. He gripped her shoulders. Hey, are you okay? He asked, leaning down to try to make eye contact. Why yes, she lifted her head up but kept her eyes on her feet as if they were the most interesting thing in the world. Yes. I'll go with you and train, Hinata said, ungluing them, but she still didn't meet the boy's questioning gaze. He flashed her one of his signature smiles. I was hoping you'd say that. I sure as hell didn't want to bring Ino. They continued walking through he woods, but something kept on nagging Hinata. But what about Sakura? She asked. Why didn't you ask her instead of me? They had left the forest and began to enter the village. His head lowered. Oh, I did ask her first, but she turned me down. How she said it made me realize that I'll never even have a chance with her, especially with Sasuke around, said Naruto as he shook his head. To me, Sakura isn't a cherry blossom anymore. More like one of those poison plants that hates just about everything around it, said Naruto, scowling at the thought of the pink-haired girl and hoped she got treated like dirt by Sasuke while he was away. Hinata gasped when he left the honorific off of his teammate's name. As the following silence drew out, she realized something very important. Ano, Naruto-kun, I have to ask my father about this trip. I don't know if he'll let me. I'm next in line for the clan head. They rounded a corner and went down the street that the Hyuga mansion was on. Naruto remained silent, wondering the same thing. Her father did seem like one of those stern, formal parents, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like he would just let her come. I can at least hope. They stopped in front of her door. So you'll tell me tomorrow what your dad says? Hinata twiddled her fingers. Hi. Are you going to be training with your team tomorrow like today? Why yes. Kurenai-sensei is on a mission and she won't be back until the day after. Okay. I'll see you then. He flashed a smile and ran back the way they had come, waving at her as he went. Bye, Hinata-chan. I hope your dad says yes. She raised her hand halfway but closed it as if she hadn't the courage to call back, which she didn't. A small, almost unnoticeable smile crept onto her face. Bye, Naruto-kun, she whispered as he disappeared around the corner. Quickly, Hinata ran inside the manor, oblivious to the pair of pale eyes that had watched her through the whole thing from one of its upper floors. That night, Hinata nervously stood outside the door to her father's study, gathering the guts to go in and ask. She gulped silently, took a deep shuddering breath and opened the door. Her father was at his large mahogany desk reading a scroll. To the Hyuga clan, the bigger, the better. Aotus-sama, Uzumaki Naruto, one of my former classmates, he asked me if. He asked you if you would join him on a 5-year training trip to the Uzumaki clan. I know. He said, rolling up the scroll and leaning forward at his desk. He came here first looking for you. As so, hi, as she cut his daughter off again. Yes, you can go. The girl's heart felt as if 100-pound weight had been lifted off of it. On 2 conditions, he continued. The weight came crashing back down on her, hurting more than ever. She had a feeling it wouldn't be so easy. I spent a great deal of time this afternoon after he visited thinking about this. I came up with this. If during the time you are on this trip that I somehow die, your sister, Hanabi, will take over as clan head. Upon your return, you cannot claim that position. You must also accept this and bring it with you when you go. He brought a black box, about 5 feet long and a few inches wide and thick out from behind his desk. It will be useful, more than you know. Hinata gasped. Is that mother's? Yes. I modified it to fit you, but you will have to find out what I did, and what it does on your own. Will you accept these terms? She stood there, reconsidering. This was a huge risk if she accepted, because that would mean that she might have to be forced out of her place as the future clan head, and would ruin all her plans. She wanted to change the clan from its coldness and possibly even eliminate, or create a newer, gentler caged bird seal. Then it wouldn't be a curse and could be activated or deactivated so the holder could pass on the Byakugan if they wanted. That would mean she would prevent future members from having fates like Niji, her cousin. To her, it would be a lot of work, but it would be worth it, and the effects would last for generations to come. Plus, there was a small, almost non-existent chance that her father would die. He had probably thought about that too. Hinata thought. I accept, Auto-san. He nodded, sad but relieved she had said yes. I really hope I don't die when you're gone. I want to live to see that you have turned into a fine kunoichi and lady when you get back. He came out from behind his desk and took the box and presented it to his daughter. Now take this and be dismissed. Hinata grabbed the box from her father, bowed and left in a quiet hurry. Hinata, my only fear for you is you discovering your own dark secret while with him. Hayashi muttered as he sat back down in his chair. The next day, so why aren't you training with your own team Naruto? What happened to Sasuke and Sakura? Kiba asked while sitting on a log. He had his lunch in front of him, and was devouring it hungrily. Shino was sitting on his other side and Hinata was between him and Naruto. The usually loud boy had joined Team 8 in their training for the day. All 4 of them plus Akamaru were sitting down for lunch, though he wasn't really hungry at the moment due to mysterious stomach problems. Sasuke team is still in the hospital and Sakura is next to him, as always being at his stupid bedside. I have no idea where Kakashi-sensei is. Probably off in a tree reading Ika Paradise, the asshole. Shino had noticed he left the usual chan off of Sakura's name. You don't harbor feelings for your teammate anymore? The blonde shook his head. No, how can I put it? I don't know even why I even liked her in the first place. She's just one of those rare super fangirls of Sasuke's, who also happens to be on my team. I'm just so tired of it, which is why I'm going to be free of the both of them in 2 days. 2 days? Asked Kiba. Where you going, a long mission or something? Naruto swallowed his food. Nope. I'm going on a 5-year training trip. 5 years? Wow, we're going to be. Kiba counted his fingers. 18. 18 when you get back. We're going to be practically adults, the blonde beamed. Yep. And Hinata-chan is coming with me too, right? The girl blushed and nodded meekly. Hi, what? Kiba jumped to his feet. Hinata-chan, you're going too. She turned away from him. Why yes, suddenly, she stood up and tightly hugged her best friend. I'm sorry, Kiba-kun. I really am. She sobbed into his shoulder. I just, well, you know why. He put his arms around her to comfort his friend, knowing exactly what she meant by that. He knew she liked Naruto, and it broke his heart too. Is this what you asked her yesterday when you came? He asked the other boy calmly. Yeah. Naruto said, downcast. He hadn't known that Hinata and Kiba were such close friends, and he felt really bad for taking her away from him. Hinata-chan, he began solemnly, if you don't want to come, I understand, I'll just find another. She'll be fine. She'll go. I don't know about you, Shino, but I'm just in a bit of shock about this. The Izunika said, stroking a still crying Hinata, and shook his head. 5 years, wow, that's going to be a long time. Naruto looked up and met the other boy's eyes. Something inside him cringed when he saw the sadness that was there, even if the boy didn't show it in his voice. Hinata, eyes still red from crying, came out the embrace. Don't worry about me and Naruto-kun. I'm still going to come with you. It's just going to be hard to leave everyone, and we won't see them at all, I bet. She smiled sadly and dried her eyes. She and Kiba sat back down on the log. I really am going to miss you guys, she said as she picked up Akamaru, who was sitting at her feet, and nuzzled him on his head. I really will. Early morning 2 days later, aka Friday, she tamped down the ground where her campfire had been that night one last time and looked around. Good, it doesn't look like I ever came here. The woman put the plain white mask over her face and took to the trees just as the sun began to peek through the leaves. Only Tsunade, Shizen, Kiba and Akamaru, Shino, Hayashi, Hanabi and Niji had come to see them off, all gathered in front of the southern gate 15 minutes before the Uzumaki clan member correspondent was supposed to arrive. The genin and Hanabi were talking amongst themselves, Naruto mostly, and the adults stood nearby watching. Both of the travelers had large backpacks stuffed with clothes and belongings, but Hinata had a long black box strapped to the side of her pack. A minute until 9 a.m., the massive doors opened up to reveal a solitary figure walking up the road. Everyone stopped what they were doing and watched the person, studying them almost. As they got closer, details could be made out. They were wearing black shin-length pants, a pair of flip-flop-like sandals, a forest green top not unlike the white one Tsunade wore, and a white mask. Kinda looks like the one that girl Hako had when we were in Wave. But it doesn't have any of the markings, Naruto mumbled to himself. After what had seemed to be a split second, the person walked over the village's threshold and approached Naruto. Where is the Hokage? A woman's voice asked. He blinked in surprise. Oh, she's the blonde person over there, he said and pointed, completely thrown off. Thank you, said the person kindly. A woman, thought both Naruto and Hinata as they watched the person walk off. I'm going to be trained by a woman? Good morning, Hokage-sama, politely said the Uzumaki as she bowed. Where are the boy and my his mother? Tsunade and the others had a similar reaction to the genins. Excuse me? She asked, though not unkindly. Where are Kushina and this boy Naruto? The Hokage opened her mouth to answer but was beaten to it by Hayashi. I'm sorry, but do you mean Uzumaki Kushina? Yes, her. Where is she? She's dead. She's been dead for 12 years. Why do you ask for her? He said, clearly confused. The woman in the mask gasped audibly. We thought that since she had passed on, we would offer a replacement girl and one of Naruto's choice since they would train together for 5 years. Is this okay with you and your clan? Asked Tsunade. Yes, I think so. I don't know about Muri, but 12 years? Her voice quivered. I know you are from Kushina's clan, but how did you know her? Asked Hayashi curiously. Kushina was my daughter. I was so excited when Muri ordered me to come here because I thought I would see her again. You're her mother? Asked Shizen incredulously. Yes. That means that Naruto actually has family. A real living family member. Looks like you took my job from me, joked Tsunade. Long story. Anyways, Naruto is the blonde boy over there in the orange jumpsuit. Kushina's substitute is the dark-haired girl next to him, Hyuga Hinata. The woman looked back at the group of kids she had approached earlier, who had long since gone back to their conversation. Seems like a nice kid, the Hokage shook her head. He's a real handful. He keeps on calling me Tsunade Bachan even if I'm the Hokage. Bachan? You don't look a day over 23, Tsunade chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. It's because I use a jutsu to hide my real age. I also have something for you here. She held up a small scroll. There is a scroll I sealed in here, but do not unseal and open it until he learns who his father is or until you deem him mature enough to handle it. That and this information is very confidential and dangerous. Why? The woman asked. Who is my grandson's father? The Hokage leaned in and whispered a name in the other woman's ear. She leaned back and raised her eyebrows expectantly. You have heard of him, right? The other woman's eyes brightened beneath her mask. Now I see why. She turned her eyes to the small scroll. What does the sealed scroll contain? It's written by his father himself. I think he left it behind just in case his duty called for his life, and so then he couldn't teach his son himself. It has many techniques for the boy learn, including the one that made him famous or infamous for that matter. The woman nodded in understanding and turned her attention to the second person coming with her. So the girl is a Hyuga? Hyuga Hinata? Hayashi answered this time, as this was his eldest they were talking about. Yes. She's my daughter and also the clan heir. Although, she is not as strong as my clan would like, so I was hoping you could strengthen her. Oh, we will, I can promise you that. But as you may know, we train our students in a different fighting style than that of your clan. She will become strong, though not in the way you might like. She looked at all the adults' faces and saw no more questions written on them. Right, she started. Can we leave now? I don't see why not, replied Tsunade. The Uzumaki left the group and walked over to the genins, interrupting their conversation. Naruto, Hinata, it's time to go, she told them. Naruto turned to Kiba, gave him a reassuring smile. He punched the boy's fist with his own. I'll take good care of her. I promise. He walked over to Niji. Same thing, but just when I get back, I hope you have accepted that fate is never a definite thing, just like I proved to you. The prodigy merely gave him a flat stare, annoyed at the younger boy for being right. Again. Goodbye, and Niji-san, Hanabi-san. Hinata gave a small bow to each of them, even if she outranked them within the clan. She suddenly stiffened when she felt the overbearing presence of her father behind her. Quickly she turned around and gave him a deep bow and held it. Gee, goodbye, Oaoto-sama. She stuttered. Hinata, look at me. She straightened up and looked him in the eye. Hi. Hayashi merely gave her a small smile, something he had done rarely since his wife had died. Nothing. He shook his head. Never mind. Say goodbye to your teammates. Hinata turned away slowly, unable of what to make of her father's actions. She pulled the rest of Team 8 into a one-armed hug for each of them. I'll miss you guys. I promise that I'll get stronger for you guys. I promise. A tear escaped her eye as the realization of what she was about to do began to slowly trickle into her. I promise. Of course you will. You just have to try hard and never give up, just like your Nindo, whispered Kiba into her ear. Ready, Hinata-chan? Naruto and the Uzumaki escort stood a few yards away at the very edge of the gates. Why yeah? She said as she broke the hug and wiped her face dry with her sleeve. She turned, ran towards them and began to walk with them, down the road into her future. Hey! Tsunade Bachan! When I get back from this, I'm gonna be so awesome that I can even beat you! The obnoxious boy yelled back. The Hokage laughed out loud. Oh, I'll always beat you, Naruto, no matter how skilled you get. Remember that, only in your sake-enhanced dreams, you old bat, said Naruto before they left, making Tsunade let out steam from her ears and fought back several curses since children were present. The next morning, the boy began to stir, surfacing for the last time from his coma. Sasuke-kun? A nearby voice inquired. What the hell, he muttered, sitting up and holding his throbbing head. I remember, he said, looking up and squinting into the bright hospital lights. Fuck. Itachi. It had hit him what had happened, and he clearly saw his elder brother in his mind, torturing him in that world of black and red, so much like that one he had been in 5 years ago. Now Sasuke-kun, you're still recovering. That same voice said. It came from his left. Sakura he recognized. Here, I bought you a melon and sliced it and everything for you, she said in that ever-cheerful voice. He looked in her direction and saw a red and pink blur. It was a bit before his eyes fully came into focus on her, but as soon as they did, he turned them to the fistfuls of sheets he was holding. A spoon with a light green cube entered his vision on his left. It really pissed him off at how much she was there for him. Always by his side, chatting away, desperately trying to strike up a decent conversation with him. She was nothing but in the way to him, a weak person who should have never become a Kunoichi. He was always saving her, like on the mission to the Wave Country and in the Forest of Death. And always when he wanted time to think and be alone, she would follow him even when he told her not to. He really didn't like her at all. But still, she had saved him from going insane that one time in that same forest, when she had told him to stop. She was crying then. He hated it when people cry, and he saw the fear and desperation in her eyes then, begging him, Sasuke-kun, stop, please. Please come back. What are you doing? You aren't being yourself. And when he had passed out that time before that, she had watched over both him and Naruto while they were both unconscious and did pretty well that time. But that was only twice. 2 times she had succeeded. 2 times out of many chances she had. It still didn't change his view of her. He knocked the food away, not even looking at Sakura. I don't want any food, he said coldly. Sasuke-kun, she began. Leave me alone, he said, and finally looked at her out of the corner of his eye. She opened her mouth to speak but was again silenced. I said. Leave me alone, he growled. Sasuke turned all the way towards her, his eyebrows sharply slanted and his eyes turned blood red. Fuck, Sakura, I said to go away and leave me alone. What do you not get about that? She tried to interrupt her, but he continued. You aren't helping me at all. Even if you are my teammate, you're just a hindrance to me. Just leave me alone. The words stung like a shower of shuriken. She could feel the tears coming. Sasuke, get out. Now, he ordered. She saw the anger in his eyes, an anger she hadn't seen since the Forest of Death and the Chunin exams. And back then, he was ready to kill mercilessly. She felt his eyes watching her, watching to see if she would stay or go. This isn't him. This isn't him. Sakura thought, and she closed her eyes tight. This is only the curse seal. This isn't Sasuke. She felt a hand close around her neck and lift her up out of her chair and into the air. What did I tell you? Sasuke was on the brink of releasing his killer intent upon the girl. Sakura sputtered and clawed at his arm, unable to breathe. I downed Sasuke-kun, she managed to choke out. He released her, and she fell in a heap and lay there for a second. To say she was utterly terrified of this boy right now would barely scrape the surface of what she was feeling. He was looking down at her hatefully, almost like he was leaving a wounded animal to die alone. A pit of fear formed in Sakura's stomach, and it told her to get away, to leave, and to get as far away as possible from this boy. The hospital room door slammed, waking Sasuke from his trance. He sat back down on the edge of the bed. What the hell? He mumbled to himself, as he held his head. What did I just do? Sakura ran through the streets away from Sasuke and the hospital. She didn't stop until she got to Naruto's apartment, and banged her fist on his door. Naruto, she cried, please open up. Please, please, please. There's something wrong with Sasuke, he's gone mad. He's insane. Just please open the door. She tried to open it but it was locked. Please, Naruto. She sobbed, sinking to her knees and clutching the doorknob. Please open the door. The door to the apartment down the hall opened up and an old man appeared behind it. You lookin' fair, that annoying blonde kid that lives there? He croaked. Sakura hopefully looked up. Yes. Where is he? He left fair a long trip. I dunno when he's gonna get back though. Talk to the Hokage about it. She'll know something. He left? Her knees shook as she stood up. Thank you. I'll go talk to her and now. Sakura ran from rooftop to rooftop, and landed in front of the small gates that led to the Hokage properties. Ignoring the guards that were on either side, she ran between them and didn't stop until she was in front of Tsunade's office door. Tsunade-sama. said Sakura before she opened the door and found the woman lounging behind her desk, idly swirling a cup of sake while hatefully staring down at the bane of all Hokages before her that laid in front of her paperwork. HM? The older woman looked up and promptly hid her alcohol. She tried to make it look as if she was actually doing something, which she of course wasn't. Again, "Oh yes, what can I do for you, young miss? Tsunade sama name is Hirono Sakurandai whereas Naruto?" The Hokage put up a hand to silence the exasperated girl. Stop. Start from the beginning. Sakura took a deep breath to calm down. My name is Hirono Sakura and I'm a genin. Uzumaki Naruto and I are on Team 7 together. I want to talk to him but someone told me he went on a mission or something. Where'd he go and how long is he going to be gone? He didn't tell you? Tsunade's brow creased in confusion. He is on a training trip right now. Both him and Hyuga Hinata. But how long is he going to be gone? She said desperately. I thought he told you since you are on his team, but he's going to be gone for 5 years. Why did he not tell you? Sakura froze and slowly mouthed the words 5 years in shock and disbelief. That's what he was asking me. The Hokage watched as the girl fell to her knees in front of her. God damn it! She slammed her fist onto the cold tile floor. That's coming out of your pay, said Tsunade, seeing the small crater imprinted on her floor. Solace. A safe haven. A retreat. Someone to confide in. A person you can tell your secrets. A person who will save you from your darkest hour. Tonight, he would be her solace. Sakura ran into her house and slammed the door to her room with her face buried in her hands. Sakura? Honey? What wrong? Her mother called from the other room. She got up and stood next to her daughter's door with her ear close to it. She could hear muffled sobs coming from the other side. She knocked. Sakura? Whatever it is, you can. Leave me alone. She heard from the other side. Actually, Sakura did want to talk but now wasn't the best time and nor was her mother the best person to do that with. Sakura's mother nodded in understanding, even if she knew her baby girl was hurting badly. Sometimes, teenagers just needed to get these things out of their systems. If you want to talk, I'll listen. And she stepped away from the door. Sakura clutched her pillow even tighter and continued to cry, if not harder than before. The boy she loved had just almost killed her. He was supposed to be her teammate. That certainly was not him, she had convinced herself. Yet she could not get the image of his red eyes out of her head. Those eyes were so full of hatred and anger. It was haunting. Then at the time when she needed him most, Naruto wasn't there. He was off on a trip and wouldn't be back for 5 years. She couldn't wait that long. No one could. He was off with Hinata too. What had prompted him to take her? Sakura personally saw nothing interesting about the girl besides her lineage and bloodline. She wasn't pretty, loud or anything like herself. She was dark, weird and kept to herself nearly all the time. This wasn't right. She was left all alone. Sasuke had changed. Naruto was gone and Kakashi-sensei was off doing S-ranked missions because of the shortage of able-bodied shinobi, according to Tsunade. She had no one to go to who would understand. These thoughts ran through her head as her sobs subsided. They went down all the way and Sakura had effectively cried herself to sleep. Nay, Uzumaki-san, when are we going to stop? I'm really hungry. The sun was lowering in the sky as the odd trio walked down the road. It had been 3 days since they had left Konoha and 3 days of Naruto jabbering away about this trip and what he hoped to do, but lots of complaining about why they weren't jumping through the trees to get there sooner. Plus that question he just kept on asking that would hopefully join him with his favorite thing, ramen. We'll stop in a few minutes. Just wait. The escort replied. She was a mysterious figure to both of the young ninjas, especially Hinata. She always wore a white mask and never let them see her face. She had a kind voice and gray streaked with a fiery red, like the remnant of a former glory. A half-hour later, they camped in a small clearing a good distance from the road they were traveling on that went south. The escort had started a fire and was currently skinning 2 rabbits she had found to cook them. There was no tent, just their sleeping bags to lie out under the stars. Soon, dinner was ready and eaten, Naruto disappointed that he wasn't allowed again to eat some of the ramen he had packed. Later, the guide took watch and the kids climbed into their sleeping bags. Naruto fell asleep immediately but it wouldn't come so easy to Hinata. She tossed and turned, her mind running a mile a minute. At some point though, she fell into a fitful sleep. Don't mess up, Hinata. This is a very important meeting, and we can't look bad. Her father towered over his 6-year-old daughter. She played with the sleeve of her stiff formal kimono, and looked down submissively. Won't, Oda-sama. Hayashi left, and resumed his place at the low table in the formal and elegant room around the corner. The cue came for her to appear. Hinata picked up the tray with shaking hands and slowly walked to the table. Her father stared at her with intense eyes. Without warning, Hinata did the worst thing imaginable. She tripped over the long hem of her kimono. The tray, the teapot, the cups and the girl all went flying forward. The scalding tea landed on the guest and Hayashi stood, his eyes literally burning with anger and fury. Hinata took one sorry look at her father and began to pick up the broken pieces of china as the tears began to build up. I am so sorry Outauda-sama. Her voice wavered, filled with fear. Hayashi went over and kicked his daughter so hard she flew backwards into the wall. She fell face first to the floor with her eyes clenched shut tightly in pain. Worthless, he spat down at her. You are of no further use to either me or the clan. He strode out of the room without a second thought or look. Hinata curled into a tight ball, hugging her knees to her chest. The world around her faded into a black abyss. She floats. Worthless. That same voice echoed everywhere. Totally and completely worthless. You are a failure, and that is all you will ever be. No. Hinata whispered to herself. I'm not worthless. I'm going to try harder. She propped her head on her knees. You hear me? She said with more confidence this time. I'm going to get stronger. A maniacal laughter filled the space, echoing off things she couldn't see. Worthless. The voice whispered. Worthless, worthless, worthless. It faded away. Hinata looked ahead and saw two bright yellow spots of light getting bigger, almost as if something was coming towards her. She slowly uncurled, stood, and began to run towards them, trying to get out of this accursed place. Hey! Over here! She called in her loudest voice. Over here! The lights didn't get any larger faster like she had expected. Soon they stopped altogether, even if she was still running. A slit appeared in each light and Hinata stopped to gasp. A huge pair of cat-like eyes, filled with malice and rage, stared back at her. The rest of the face faded in from the infinite darkness. A gargantuan deep purple cat was grinning at her with huge menacing teeth. A low growl came from deep in its throat, and at this point, Hinata was frozen and scared for her life. She tried to turn to run away from the thing, but her feet wouldn't let her. A glint came into its eyes. It opened its huge mouth just as she finally managed to turn, and released a deafening roar. She was startled enough and she accidentally did again what made this dream a nightmare. She tripped. She slowly opened her tear-stained eyes and looked out a window. Stars? Sakura thought. She sat up and wearily rubbed her eyes with the heels of her palms. How long have I been out? She groaned. She looked at the clock next to her bed. 10:49. Sakura stood and looked outside again, but looked more closely this time now that her mind had cleared a bit. Although, something was out of place. A person was sitting on one of the rooftops and looking at the moon. As far as she could tell from where she was, they had a large, irregular object strapped to their back. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the window to jump out. The front door really wasn't an option, as her mother would be wondering where she was going and if she wanted to talk again. Sakura stood on the windowsill and jumped to the rooftop across the street. She continued to slowly approach the person, and the details slowly came into focus. Red hair, black shirt and pants. Dark rings around his turquoise eyes. The suna for head protector. And the telltale kanji for love tattooed on his forehead. Gaara. Gaara of the sand. What's he doing here? Sakura hid behind a corner and peered around as soon as she got within 20 feet of the boy. He felt someone's presence to his left. I know you're hiding there. You can come out now. He hadn't moved a muscle. She stepped out into the moonlight, uneasy about him. Last time they met, he had almost killed her, but that time, Gaara had been taken over by his bijou, the one-tailed Shikaku. Now, he seemed calm and pensive and it definitely didn't seem like he would attack her anytime soon. Sakura walked up the side of the roof and sat down next to him a few feet away on the beam, just to make sure. Why are you up so late? She asked. Gaara paused and remembered her from a little over a month ago. I should be asking you that. She blinked. What did that mean? Huh, I have insomnia. I can never sleep. Why not, my bijou? If I sleep, he is released, and will take revenge on this world until I wake up. You saw part of him in the forest. Her eyes fell. Oh. The silence drew out as Sakura couldn't think of anything else to say. He didn't seem like one for conversation. Why are you even speaking to me? I nearly killed you, Gaara said after a few minutes. He glanced sideways at her. She didn't answer immediately. You look under control now. I could lose it any second, you know. You're still not afraid? He turned all the way to face her in astonishment. A Kunoichi risks her life every day for her village, Sakura said matter-of-factly. How is this any different? He fell into silence and looked down with no answer to her question. This girl was unusual. No one ever talked to him out of their own free will outside his family and teachers. He turned back to looking at the moon and rested his head on his hands, puzzled, but a bit of gratitude came up from somewhere inside him to her. I'm just really curious, but when you aren't yourself, like you're insane, like how you were in the forest, what are you thinking? What does losing your mind, so to speak, feel like? The girl didn't take her eyes off the roof tiles. Gaara again remained silent for a moment. Why do you ask? This time, Sakura was the one who turned to face the other, tears welling up as she remembered the day's past events. My teammate Uchiha Sasuke is that way right now, I think. You fought him in the forest too. He definitely wasn't himself today. He woke up from his coma in the hospital, lifted me up by the neck, told me to get out or he'd kill me. She shivered at the memory and a tear escaped by the corner of her eye. But the thing is, I like him a lot and I want him to be well and sane. She looked up to the moon. I don't know what to do, Gaara. I really don't. That's why, amidst all the bad feelings that he had for the world, Gaara couldn't help but feel sorry for this girl. She was hurting in a way he couldn't comprehend because it was love. And that was something he never truly had experienced. If he was going to make something out of his existence like that Hyper Uzumaki boy, he would start now, he decided. He would start here with this girl. Her eyes snapped open. She brought a shaky hand up to her forehead and felt that it had a thin layer of sweat. Hinata closed her eyes and took a deep shuddering breath, but the tears betrayed her as she tried to keep control of herself. A low sob escaped her, followed by others when the words came back that the father in her dream had said. Hinata-chan? A groggy voice to her left asked. Hey, what's wrong? What happened? Naruto had woken from her cries. IH had a nightmare. She tried to put a smile in her voice. That's all. No, it's not, he stated. He sat up and moved to sit next to her on the grass. A nightmare would just scare a person and not to the point that it would make them cry. This must have been really bad. Come on, tell me. She sat up too but kept her head down while he looked at her with an understanding expression. It had started with a memory I have of when I was S6. Naruto nodded. Go on. She told him the first part of her dream up until the part when it had turned for the worst. He in turn proved to be a good listener, as he had gone through some similar experiences. When she began to shiver and cry again, he moved to be next to her and put an arm around her shoulder. She was so wrapped up in her story that she didn't notice. He kicked me into the wall, called me worthless, and said the clan didn't need me anymore. Then everything faded to black. She shuddered again. His voice echoed and said I was worthless over, and then there W was that cat, that huge beast cat. It almost looked like L, like she trailed off again and buried her face in his shoulder. He brought his other arm around and hugged her, determined to stop her crying. Naruto had promised himself a while ago that he would only never cry again when he was happy. He never wanted other people to cry if he could help it. Like what? He whispered. A monster? She could barely get the word past her lips. A demonen. The word struck hard and he stiffened even if the dream had nothing to do with him. Sure, Hinata-chan, it was only a dream. He placed his chin on her head and rocked her back and forth until her cries ceased, and she fell asleep. As he released his jacket from her stiff grip to wrap her back up in her sleeping bag, he made a decision. If he was going to become Hokage, he might as well change the people of the village by being whatever they needed. And he would start here by being there for this girl, being her solace tonight.